October 28th, 2024. If you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Again, I apologize for us being late. I do want to give notice of an executive session. One was held on November 24th via Zoom, and one prior to this meeting, both discussing legal issues. The next thing I want to do is give notice that we are pulling an item from the business agenda. It's item E, discussion and direction on Willow's Noise. Just in case there's anyone here for that, you don't have to sit through everything else. All right. We have an opening public participation. If we could, if I could ask, and you don't have to listen, that this public participation would be about issues that are not on the active agenda later, where you could speak when the item is being discussed about. But you don't have to listen to that. However, if you do want to publicly participate, if you could give your name and your street, and you'll have 5 minutes to talk about whatever you would like. I'll give you a 1-minute notice when you only have 1 minute left. Anybody want to take part? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that any commissioner or member of the public would like to pull? Seeing none, could I have a motion to pass the consent agenda, please? So moved by Commissioner Larkin. A second? Commissioner Agnew. And a vote. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Let's move on to the business agenda. Okay, I'm going to change the order a little bit here, and I apologize. We're going to do item C, ordinance 2024-08, because I believe the majority of the audience is here about that. We're going to do that first. So ordinance 2024-08, this says adoption, authorizing the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township to select and appropriate by eminent domain certain real estate in Radnor Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania for municipal parking, stormwater management, and other municipal purposes. Also, authorizing the institution of eminent domain proceedings for the acquisition of land, the furnishing of security for the payment of damages in accordance with law, and the ability of certain officers of Radnor Township to act for it in all procedures and actions. Could I have a motion, please? So moved. And a second? Second. Okay. Do I have any commissioner comments or questions? Not at this point. Any public participation? What? Oh. Well, I was going to have people talk first.
Yeah, was the motion to approve? That's. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
Nothing yet. Okay.
Could I make a new motion? Is that what I should do? I'm just asking my lawyer here. Should I do my motion to continue at this point, or?
Well, I think it's a public hearing, so at this point, I think you open it up to the public and let them have their say, and then the board can make whatever comments. You don't need to make a motion before taking public comment.
I just don't want to people to come up and ask us to continue it when it's probably what we're going to do. It makes sense to at least let them know, I hope.
All right. So I'm going to make a new motion.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to continue ordinance 2024-08, not adopt it, until the meeting on 11/11/24. Thank you. A second. Mulrooney and Agnew. Everybody's happy with that? Okay. Any commissioner comments or questions?
I think, just for some clarity, I think, we understand that there's a lot of really good conversations going on about what should happen with this parking lot. We are very eager to hear from the community, but have decided as a board to allow more time for those conversations before we take the vote to approve this. But you are all here tonight, so we did want to hear from you, even though the end result of tonight is not going to be a formal vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to phrase it a different way, but that's fine. Just so everybody knows, we have received nonstop, and we're very appreciative to get the input, calls, voicemails, and emails from the WBC congregation. And we do like to hear from the constituents, but after a lot of thought, we've come to this conclusion that it's better to continue this motion at this point. All right. Any commissioner comments or questions? Public participation.
Thank you. Nick Keneally, representing Wayne Presbyterian Church. The church has no objection to the continuance. Actually, was going to ask for tabling of the motion. I would request, I know that it's an open meeting and people can come up and have their comments. I think I would request that that be held until November 11th meeting, unless the board feels as if they need to hear that now. By November 11th, I know that hopefully I'm going to be having discussions with Mr. Rice regarding resolution of this matter. So I would ask that it be held off until November 11th, unless the board feels a need to hear what people have to say at this time.
I would ask, I know that in speaking with quite a few people, and plenty of people I didn't have time to get back to, that there are a lot of misconceptions in the timeline of what's gone on and what's gone on in general. And I would actually like to hear, if people have an issue that's not about just tabling this or continuing it, if they have specific issues, I'd actually like to hear them so that we could think about them. We are making good progress toward an agreement, so I think that would be my preference.
And it's really up to the residents if they want to comment or not.
Sure.
So you're not in charge of all the residents.
I
Nick.
totally agree, John.
If they want to come up and comment on this, it's being opened up for public comment now on this motion, on this matter.
And in that regard, just a few comments. There was a notice to terminate given to the township. That was after months of discussions and very little movement on resolving this matter. As you know, this lease was made, I believe, in 1955, so it's over 60 years old. There was initially a 5-year term on that lease, and then it was renewed year to year with 90 days notice. On this particular case, there was a termination sent out that would have effectively ended the lease on November 22nd. Since that time, that termination has been rescinded. So as a result, the lease really has been renewed until November 22nd, 2025. We're hoping, obviously, to resolve this matter before that period of time. I have made to Mr. Rice an effort to resolve it. We have made a proposal as to terms of a new lease, which is a long-term lease. And in that regards, hopefully that the township reciprocate and we would have fruitful discussions in resolving this matter.
Could I clarify one issue? I thought it was until May 22nd.
That was, with the letter that I had sent, the email I sent to Mr. Rice, it said it's effective, it's terminated effective immediately. That, in effect, brings the lease until November 22nd of 2025, since it was 1-year extensions. Additionally, I had sent an addendum saying, let's extend the lease for 6 months, hoping that we would get to this point where we could resolve and speak about the matter and hopefully reach some sort of resolution on a new lease. That was the addendum that was attached to my email to Mr. Rice.
Thank you. Any public participation? They're listening to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lydia Solomon. I'm a current Radnor Township School Board member. I've served on the school board for 15 years, but I am not here in any capacity related to that. I'm here as a member of the Wayne Presbyterian Church congregation. I'm not going to say everything that I had prepared to say tonight, just that I think that we are two organizations that want the same thing, and that is what's best for Radnor and the Wayne community. The church has, as you've mentioned, or it's come up already, we've had that property for 150 years. We've been in this arrangement with the township for 70 years. It's my understanding, and I've talked to a lot of you, I've talked to people in the church, that actually what the two parties want is very, very similar. So to me, I'm not going to go through how we got here. I know I'm coming in at the 11th hour. I am requesting that we start fresh with getting this settled. I really think that we all want the same thing. The church wants to maintain control of our property. To me, this is my personal opinion, it's a very valuable property because of its location. To me, it's valuable because it's the legacy that the church will leave to the community, what happens there. It's also my opinion that the majority of the congregation wants it to stay as it is, as a parking lot, and to stay in this lease agreement with the township. But I understand it's 70 years old, and there's some things about it that maybe should be adjusted or tweaked. So it is, I guess, my plea to you that you not move forward with this, to me, again, seems like a very aggressive move of eminent domain against a civic organization, a church in your community. It's a very bad look for Radnor. Let's solve this. Again, I think we're all on the same side here. We all want very similar things for Radnor, and honestly, I don't think we're that far apart in what we're asking for. I think this is a big miscommunication. So I'm begging you to just stop this eminent domain piece. I know you're not going to vote tonight. Let the parties that, you know, are familiar with all the details of this work this all out. And just as a person who's going to be paying the legal fees for both sides of this, I look at this as kind of ridiculous. So that's my plea to you, is let's solve this in a congenial, approach this with the assumption of good intent, and let's get this settled. So thank you for listening, and thank you for all of you who gave me time to talk with you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Doug Bruns, 63 Oakford Road. First of all, thank you for continuing this. I echo what Lydia says. I think we're very close to coming up a deal. Just one thing about the church governance is very much similar to the governance of Radnor Township. The congregation is basically equal to the public, and I'm a member of session. We are elected elders that are conducting the business of the church, much like you are elected commissioners. So it is very much the same process. So that's one of the reasons why anything we put forth to the commissioners needs to get voted on and discussed by the session. So that's why this is sometimes taken some time in the last week. I know we did send forth a new lease proposal on Wednesday after session voted on it and approved it. So I'm the chair of the administration committee. I know there's been some questions about who from Wayne Presbyterian Church we should be talking to. So I'm in charge of the administration committee and an elected elder, and I look forward to working with this out with all of you in the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the right attitude. Anybody else?
I'm Scott Laird, and I'm an elder at Wayne Presbyterian Church. And I just wanted to comment on something that I heard mentioned 2 weeks ago at the meeting to introduce this. And that was the belief that Wayne Presbyterian Church had decided that it might want to develop the parcel that we own that is the subject of this. The way we're structured is that our session, which is our ruling board that decides policy of the church, they work in committees, and committees can come up with ideas and proposals and bring it to session for approval. And the decision to develop the property was never decided by the session. It was a proposal that was brought to the session and was studied by a task force, and eventually the session voted it down. We never did plan officially to develop that property. And I believe that there was some concern that that was actually the case. But I think you need to understand that the church did not ever decide to develop that property. We considered it, but we consider ideas all the time. But the ultimate decision was we want to retain that parcel for the current use. We never did anticipate actually developing that parcel for an apartment building. It was voted down, and so the church was never officially willing to do that. And the concern was expressed by the board that 10 years from now, we might change our minds and want to use that parcel for something else. But we've said that our church right now values that parking. That parking is critical to our own operation, and that's not anything that we are considering as a church at this time. And we have never decided to develop that property. So.
Thank you for that clarification. Anyone else? Seeing none. We need, oh, I'm sorry. I said it too fast. Take your time.
Hi, I'm Mike Packer. I live on Farriston Road in Wayne. I'm a member of Wayne Presbyterian. I guess what I don't understand is if the township were to do this, what, as a township resident, would be the gain for the residents of Radnor? Because my understanding is the parking would remain the same, but if that's the case, then it seems as a resident that we're spending a lot of money and not getting anything that we don't already have today. So as you go through this in the next few weeks, I think I think a lot of the residents of Radnor would be concerned about that. What do we, invest in if we don't have to, if it's the same purpose?
Thank you.
Hello, Sue Metzger. I moved October 1st to the dark side, to Tredyffrin, but my first home was purchased in Radnor in 1990. And I raised my kids in this community. Long story short, Wayne Presbyterian Church, I've been a lifelong member, having grown up in this area. I just want to take you all back a week ago at this exact hour. If you were to have walked into Wayne Presbyterian Church, what you would have seen or heard were 150 people practicing for the Wayne Oratorio Society, kind of filling the building with song. They have a concert coming up this weekend that is open to the community. You also would have heard lots of scouts, both boys and girls, from Radnor Troop 284, meeting with the same shared energy and enthusiasm as the oratorio. Also, over 30 deacons were meeting to iron out plans for how to solicit and collect Christmas gifts and meals that will impact over 150 families in this local community come December. What I didn't see, because I was only there in the evening, was that for 2 hours during the day, Wayne Presbyterian hosted Alcoholics Anonymous, as they do every weekday, Monday through Friday, I guess that's a weekday, right? I also know that in Tuesday, over 100 kids attended Wayne Nursery School. I'm a very proud 1970 alumni of the Wayne Nursery School program. I excelled at eating Nilla wafers. But seriously, Wayne Presbyterian serves this community, and this is why it's so significant to me and to my life and my family's life. We want to keep the parking lot. That's our goal. We want to continue to service this community. We want to continue to collect food for the Great Valley Food Cupboard. We want to open our doors for the Red Cross quarterly for blood drives. And we like to host events as we did on October 5th, which was a half-day conference for those unemployed or underemployed. We work closely with the Wayne Business Association. We're supporting Santa's picture-taking event on December 7th. And for all these reasons, I know that we can come to some significant negotiations that will be beneficial because we all have the same passion for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chad Slate. I live at 620 West Wayne Avenue. I'm a 30-year Township resident, 30-year member of Wayne Presbyterian Church, currently serve on session on the board of that church, and also serve as chartered organization rep for Scout Troop 284, which is housed at Wayne Presbyterian Church. What I would like to talk to you about this evening is to build a little bit on some of the things that you've heard. So 2 weeks ago at the hearing, I did hear a lot of rhetoric about Wayne Presbyterian Church wanting to shut down the parking lot. I think it's really important for us as leaders to see through rhetoric and to get to facts and common understanding. Parking is extremely important for the life of our church. 2 weeks ago at the hearing, I also heard concern from the board about the proposal that came up several years ago. What I wanted to let you know is that I was a member of the steering committee that was formed by the board of the church to conduct the equivalent of public hearings at that time. We listened to our congregation. We listened to our neighbors, including hosting members of the Wayne Business Association, the Wayne Hotel, the Wayne Senior Center, and I was also one of the authors of the final recommendation report that we wrote back to the session. So one of the things that's not been mentioned is that in our polity, an act like development of the church requires what would be the equivalent in Radnor of a voter referendum. The session unanimously adopted the recommendations of that report, which was not to put forward the development proposal for a vote to the congregation, A, because we knew it would fail, but B, because we did not feel it was in the best interests of the church or of the township. Some of the other recommendations that were adopted by the session in that report was to continue to improve relations with the township. I do see, as a result of where we're standing now, that there has been a lot of misunderstanding about the church's intent and about the township's intent. I think we both fear the development of that space and what that would mean for parking in the township. There are safety issues and water issues in the parking lot, but we do wish to resolve those as partners with the township in the service of both our congregation and of the township residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Really? Seeing none. All right. We have a motion and a second on the continuance until 11/11/24 for ordinance 2024-08. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I'm just going to give a 2-minute break or so for the room to clear. All right, let's come to order. We're going to start at the top of what was previously the top of the business agenda with item A. It's a caucus preliminary land development plan approval for 60 West, 45-unit condominium. Mr. Falcone, you going to start us off?
I will. Thank you. Probably want to pull up that. This one live.
Take this out.
Take that thing out, maybe.
New computer.
Here it comes.
It's a new computer.
Switch for the presentations. You should be.
Do you have Adobe on here yet or no?
So while Rob is getting that together, I'll give you just a little bit of background on how we got to you tonight. You are all very familiar with this project. We were before you for the conditional use portion of it, which came before kind of this land development process. What we are here for you tonight, just to give you a general understanding of where we are and how we've gotten to here, is the caucus for our preliminary plan. We've met with your planning commission several times before getting to you all. We've also appeared before the Shade Tree a few times as well. This is for the redevelopment of the AT&T parking lot, which fronts on Route 30, and it's for, as they just noted, 45 units. I think we're going to get this plan up here. The plan was approved.
It's all right.
So as part of the conditional use process, we ultimately obtained approval from you all back in February. And as part of that approval, a number of conditions were attached to the application, which have kind of occurred over the number of months. We've worked closely with Commissioner Larkin, the most important condition we believe being to meet monthly with our neighbors, which we have done. We've held meetings with them in advance of our planning commission sessions and ultimately continue to do those right up through and through this process. The feedback we got initially was with respect to some of the designs in the building. We've addressed those, we believe, to the satisfaction of most of the neighbors that were concerned. There were also some additional conditions to the approval that we believe we've met at this point. Another important one, I guess, given what was just in front of us, was making sure that we had another parking lot prepared to replace this parking lot. That's been done. We've provided to your solicitor a copy of an amendment which would move the existing township lease to the 60 West lot in the back. There'll be some additional conversation around 60 West. There's an additional comment that we make a payment of $10,000 per unit to the township. We've agreed to do that. That'll all come during the development and the certificate of occupancy process. And then finally, there's a pedestrian study, which again is a condition for final approval. We continue to work with Mr. Norsini and his staff, and we'll do that as well. You'll hear some discussion tonight, and I'll kind of hit that head on, as dealing with that 60 West parking lot. We've met some resistance from the landowner back there, which is AT&T, with respect to excavation of that lot. So we're coming up with additional options to meet some of the comments, to provide some landscaping back there, some lighting, some surface stormwater management. All of that is still in process. We've submitted an updated plan that we hope gets us closer to that end goal. But as we move through towards final land development approval, we've committed to and are anticipating continuing to work with staff and Mr. Norsini's group, with the solicitor, with your engineers, to get that plan exactly where we think it needs to be. Again, moving that ball forward, but there are some constraints as to excavation of that back lot, and that was communicated to us, and I've again communicated that to your solicitor as well. So tonight we do have a couple of updated review letters from your consultants just with respect to the land development portion. There's a second agenda item for you all tonight, which is the subdivision of the property. So right now, the overall AT&T property is one big piece. What you see on this plan in front of you here, the mouse is not working. So here you have, this is the development parcel. It's connected to what's the existing main building, and then there's a lot towards the back. The subdivision will simply divide this front development parcel, the parking lot, which was one of your special use districts designated in your ordinance for redevelopment, from the remainder of the property, which is the back lot and the primary AT&T building, with AT&T will continue to occupy. So that second item agenda you're going to see tonight is simply for subdivision purposes, which allows the developer to purchase the property. The approval of that subdivision is not an approval of the land development. That is the first item agenda, which we're talking about right now, and that will move through the process. So procedurally, we will be back to you all for a vote. We are not seeking a vote tonight, just any comments you might have on the comment letters we got from your consultants or on the project in general, and that would ultimately give us preliminary approval when we come back for the vote. And then we have to go through and get everything cleaned up, continue to work with staff, Mr. Norsini, to get to final, and that will be down the road. Rob will also give you some updates on where we stand with obtaining our sewer capacity. We're making good progress there. We've gotten sign-off from RHM, and it's in line further down. So we are moving through that process as well. So I'll turn it over to Rob just to walk through those review letters that we got from your two consultants, and then I'm still here, and we can answer any questions you might have on the land development piece. But again, we're just looking for caucus tonight and getting any feedback you might have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lambert?
Good evening. I had to go back through my files. We've gone to several planning commission meetings and obviously had the conditional use, so I had to remember which plan you saw last. One of the things Dave didn't mention was between the conditional use and our application, we actually shifted the building further away from Lancaster Avenue and also further away from Bellevue. That was part of the changes. So I did receive the two review letters. We have the Gannett Fleming letter and the Gilmore Associates letter. happy to go through any comments you want. A lot of the comments are really related to final land development pieces, getting into further detail, providing stormwater details for some of the Gannett Fleming, looking at some small striping area for in the Gilmore review letters. So everything I think is on track for preliminary and being able to provide that additional detail when we get to final. I think Dave stole the thunder for the planning module. We did have RHM sign off, and so now we're looking for the downstream entity sign offs to continue that planning module process. And then as we get through preliminary, we will be submitting some permitting for both PennDOT and our NPDS permits to get that process moving concurrently with final land development.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions or comments? Commissioner Larkin.
So we have a review letter from Gannett, and I apologize, but it looked to me like it was based on a plan from May 30th. Is that correct?
I think that was the original submission. Yeah, that was where it said date accepted. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
It was the October 14th Gannett letter?
Yeah.
Last revised plan was October 4th.
Got it. Okay, so that may address my question. Is the plan that this letter responds to the most recent plan that you guys have put forward?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I would like to get a little bit more detail on what's going on with the parking lot, the back lot. So what have you learned from AT&T? What options do you think you have to make it safe, well-lit, beautified,
That's that one. Yeah.
et cetera?
Go down.
So initially, the plan we submitted at first as part of our land development process included just striping, because that we could not excavate. That was the comment they made in the amendment that we had negotiated and sent to the solicitor. There is apparently sensitive material in that parking lot, and they did not want any excavation. So we actually worked very closely with Mr. Norsini in coming up with alternatives that would allow us to continue to put stuff in that parking lot so it wasn't just essentially a sea of asphalt. One of the items that we landed on was to stack planters out there, which allow us to basically have plantings inside of planted boxes. And you can see on this updated plan, this is the most current that's been submitted to the township. We also adjusted some of the sizing of the parking spaces because our engineer was following the WBOD standards. The township has asked us to come to a different size. That's one of the things we are going to continue to talk about with staff to see if there's an alternative to get some additional spaces. Right now, we're breaking even with the number of spaces that we are taking from the front lot. The initial desire was to provide additional parking back there, and the size of the spaces directly impacts that. That has nothing to do with the excavation. That's just how we're going to interpret the ordinance. But we are going to work with staff on that to see if there are areas of the lot where we can adjust the sizes of the spaces to get some additional parking. We're also adding into this lot some additional lighting just for safety purposes. We've added additional lights around the lot than are there today with some increased pole heights that allows for some more lighting of the parking lot. And we're looking at solar lighting options inside of the parking lot that won't have to get trenched, and then they can provide the additional lighting there. Those are all things we're working with on staff. We've updated the plan to include some additional lights. I think We're going to add a couple of additional spots where we can put some solar lighting inside of rolled curb beds, which will allow us to, again, create some definition to the areas that you see on this plan, and then the planters will be inside of those rolled curb beds.
And I should say, the applicant came to me and asked the question, we can squeeze additional parking spaces in, but we've been told that doing so would be inconsistent with the parking requirements for the WBOD, or maybe not requirements, but instead the custom for the WBOD.
Right.
And my suggestion was, my bet is that this board is not going to have the appetite to add a couple of additional parking spaces when we could instead just break even, if doing so would end up with a parking lot configuration that was inconsistent with what's the current standard in the WBOD, but that was just my guess as to the board's appetite. And
Right, so that's what you have here, a totally compliant as to size parking lot.
Yeah, I guess thank you, and the break even is good for me, I think, the aspiration to add some parking is a good thing, but if it comes out to break even,
Yeah.
that's where we're at. My bigger concern is, and, you're working with what you've got, but, I do not have a green thumb, I will admit that, but I have never seen container gardens that are maintained nicely for a very long period of time. Like, something dies off, it's never quite lush and pretty, and so I am concerned about that. I'm concerned about the ongoing maintenance of the beautification of that. You have to water containers. Maintaining greenery in other spaces, as long as it's the right plants, are kind of handled by nature, right? So this is going to be a lot more maintenance to make the greens stay green, make sure the planters are, full and looking good. So that's my concern about what we're facing. So I don't think it gives us kind of what we were hoping to have over at that end of town. And I don't know from the agreement who does maintain the back lot once it's complete. Does that become Public Works taking care of that lot once all is said and done? Or is that part of the maintenance that the development?
Yeah, it's a lease between the township and AT&T that exists today for the front lot, and it's being assigned to the back lot.
Right, so.
I don't know who maintains the parking lot today.
Yeah, but there's no planting, really, maintenance for the front lot, and I don't think the lease addresses.
I don't know the answer
The
to
lease
that.
doesn't address this scenario at all.
Yeah, I just know,
Proposed
if you're
lease.
using planters, it's a constant maintenance of who's keeping those plants looking nice, and
So you can see
AT&T
their
will probably
trees.
not be doing that.
Right, so we aren't, when I say planters, we're not putting like flowers inside of pots.
No, I'm looking at
Yeah,
it, but I
we're
can tell
putting-
you in
we're
my
going for
yard,
trees.
2 of those are dead, and 1 looks great.
Yeah,
I'm looking at that picture. I've got the same
Sure.
kind of things. I've got evergreens. I've tried everything under the sun. I'm a bad gardener, and I don't pay attention to them, and I don't water them, and they die.
yeah.
So it's either adding to our Public Works, crew that has to go over with water and bringing water to water these things because they're in a pot, or AT&T is maintaining it, and I don't think that's likely. So I just put that out as an issue that I'm concerned about, and we should make sure that we know who's going to take care of the pretty planters to maintain, the beautification of a lot that we're hoping people will use.
May I suggest, you have planters, going to have planters in the development?
Are there,
You're going to have planters of greenery and stuff like that. That's kind of my recollection. I could be confusing it with a
I don't
different
think we
development.
are using planters, we're just planting. We have all new plantings for the project.
And who will be maintaining those?
The HOA it's just landscaping.
Right, so when those landscapers come,
Yeah.
and landscape 60 West, they can go across the street and water some planters, right? That could be part
It's
of
something we can certainly discuss, right? So
Okay,
we
so-
would need, just so we're clear, right, we would need to work that out, Kathy, with.
But you're going to be there anyway. I would say your client will be there anyway, doing landscaping maintenance. It's across the street. Just think about it. Secondly, and maybe I'm missing something in the legend, I don't see where the lights are going to go.
So the lights are inside of the next page. They're inside of the islands. Page down on this, Rob. Hold on.
Commissioner, Madam President, if I could just interject. So to Mr. Falcone's point, that area in the middle of the parking lot is not lit the way we would like it to be lit. So most likely there's islands that are going to have to go in there. So you lose spaces. But we're going to work with them on perhaps mixing and matching space size in the lesser used areas. But I think one thing we should look at, item 9 of the adjudication. So basically this is saying the applicant shall install parking islands, landscaping, and subsurface and surface stormwater facilities in a manner to be approved. So obviously they cannot do that with the requirement from AT&T. So I know what Mr. Falcone said, I think it would be appropriate if they were to offer to maintain, because we're not going to be able to get the parking lot originally intended. We're going to work with them to make it nicer and with the planners, but without being able to excavate, they can't meet that. So maybe that, I would hope Mr. Falcone and his client would agree to do that, to keep it looking nice and to take that burden off our staff.
Secondly, where are the lights? Thank you, Mr. Norsini.
Where are the lights?
Yeah.
So, Rob, I don't know if you want to identify. They're inside of essentially planters, Kathy,
Yeah.
inside these islands.
So I'll start. So there's existing perimeter lights, and those would be replaced, right? And so you have the existing perimeter lights. It's everything that's labeled, I believe it's VD4 is going around the lot. And then, because we can't go underground, we worked with the lighting consultant Beam to find a solar fixture. And then we have a complication. We can't go underground, so how do you make that stand? And so what we've talked through is actually using a planter to be the base of a pole, and then we would do a 10-foot pole with a solar-powered LED that would be mounted, we'd fill the planter with concrete to act as the base of that.
I mean, I don't know, so tell me.
Yeah, so that's what we were
so
doing. And
it's
then
great in the
we have
summer?
2 locations, in this location and this location that we were proposing this.
Which look? I see the. top
I'm
one.
sorry,
Yeah.
in the upper left island,
Uh-huh.
there was a darker area up there, and then in the middle island here, and what Mr. Rossini was just saying is looking at other areas where we would add potentially another one of those solar fixtures or multiple solar fixtures.
And so would that result in the entire lot being well lit? Well lit so that a woman at 10 o'clock at night by herself is not going to be worried?
That's the goal. That's what we have to work out with Mr. Rossini, so what we can provide with the perimeter lighting and then some of these fixtures in the interior.
Is there any place you know of where this has already been done so we can just go and take a look and see how it's working?
I have not used this particular fixture. Again, we're trying to find a fixture that will work. It's a commercial fixture that, again, Beam recommended, or they have not used it either. Usually you would be able to wire it, right? And if we were able to wire it, we could, easily wire it, right? The problem is we can't, so we were trying to find an alternative to that.
Right, so I'm asking you, is there anywhere you know of?
I do not have that information.
Is there someone you can find out from?
Yes, I'll try to find out from the
I'm sure
manufacturer.
we would like to see that it works, especially now that it's getting darker. I mean, you can say solar, great, I could be wrong. In the summer, that's great, you're getting light 16 hours a day to, 12 hours a day or 13 hours a day. And now you're not when you most need it, so.
So what we could
Will it be well
control,
lit?
we did, though. We
Sorry?
added extra poles and we raised them, and we made those lights brighter on the outside. So that was something that was totally within our control.
Yeah.
So, and that's making what's there today better. So we can only do.
This is not a public lot at the moment. So
It is
making
not.
better.
It
not-
certainly can.
Has to make it better for the township.
And that's what we're trying to do, right? So we're working, again, grateful to staff for kind of helping us come through some of these ideas. What can you do when you can't go underground? And so that's what we're trying to find the best options to provide the most light to the areas that are the dimmest in the lot. There are now no areas of the lot that have no light, which was the initial plan with just perimeter lighting there were certain spots in the lot that would have kind of a 0-foot candle lighting.
Right, so that's not acceptable, really. right?
Understood,
Okay.
right. So now there are none of those. Now we're just trying to make the darkest areas brighter. For the very example that you gave,
Yes.
right? So we want to make sure that kind of every corner of the lot has acceptable light. And that's, we're going to just work with staff on that. That's the best we can do. We're committed to it, and we're continuing through that process.
Including in the middle.
That's that's the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the area
All right.
we're
So
going most for.
You'll get back to us with a place that maybe has done this
We
successfully?
will ask Beam, for sure, Kathy, of course.
Okay.
The,
I'm sorry?
I said for sure, of course.
Falcone, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Commissioner Agnew.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner, yeah, sorry.
A question about the VD4s?
I'm sorry?
VD4 on these, the
Peripheral
peripheral
lights.
Yes.
lamps, lights, those are existing?
Those are new poles. So we're installing new poles. There are some existing poles.
Okay.
We're providing new poles with a little bit higher and better lighting that's going to,
And those would also have to be sort of above-ground solar?
no,
or
those are.
Those are in the ground? 'Cause they're
Correct. Those are
currently-
conventional lights.
So everything on the perimeter, you can get into
Yes.
the ground?
And one of the things that we were struggling with on that was the spillage to the neighbors. We wanted to be sensitive to make sure that we didn't impact any of the neighboring properties.
Yeah.
And what about there's a big barrier of trees along where those lights are?
On the northern side, towards the tracks.
So kind of on this drawing, that's
Yes.
sort of going up, to the left corner, those VD4s there, there's a lot of tree there.
There are.
How are you working in and around those trees, or are you clear cutting?
So those trees, I'm assuming, I'm going to mark it on here, up in this corner here,
Just kind of that whole line? that
you'll
whole-
see
that
there's
whole
no,
Perimeter.
there are no poles up there.
Not poles, but I'm looking at a map view.
Parallel to the tracks.
So I'm looking at a map view here, and
Okay.
along that ridge, that
Yeah.
line.
So I'm moving the mouse, just to make sure I'm looking at the right area.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Those there.
talking
All
about.
those.
Yes,
When you look at the map view that I'm looking at with Commissioner Riley,
yes.
there's a lot of greenery there. Does that remain, or are you clear cutting
They'll be
that to
trimmed, there
put
will
in
not be
poles?
clear cutting.
Okay.
No clear cutting.
But they will help with the light with the neighbors
Yes.
if done correctly.
Yes, so that top corner, I mean, this was one of the areas that was initially dark, and there's neighbors that abut that. So we're trying to kind of thread that needle as best we can to get the appropriate amount of light there without creating disturbance to the neighbors. And that's why you'll see one of those solar boxes is up in this island here.
Yeah, so there's no splash over.
Correct, yes.
I'm sorry, if that's not possible, we'll just lose how many spots rather than disturb the neighbors, do you know? If it's not possible to avoid the spillover.
So there is no spill on this current plan.
Okay.
You can see the foot candles are those tiny numbers.
Oh, okay.
And you see on the line there, you have the 0.0, 0.0, 0.0. I think there's one that's 0.1, but that's still on the property line. This one here, I think is a 0.1.
Okay.
Are you able to, do you see what I'm circling? Is that on your screen as well? It is, yeah. So that there. And this is the line to go off. And here, you'll note, this is where the parking spaces end. So this is
Oh, I see, okay, oh, I'm sorry.
okay.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Norsini, actually.
Great.
The South Wayne parking lot, you have solar lighting. I understand it's a little different than this, but does it light adequately all seasons? Just as a hint to Commissioner Agnew's question about what happens in the winter.
They do, but they're very sophisticated solar lights. They're very large, and they require considerable foundations, which I don't know that they could replicate here, possibly. But our lights actually reduce their wattage during the wintertime. So instead of going out, if we don't get enough sunlight for enough period of time, they'll go to 75%, and then they'll go to 50%, and then they'll go to 25% at the end of the evening. So maybe we haven't encountered that yet. They've been fine. I can work with these folks to see if those lights, something like that can be used. They definitely won't be able to be installed in a planter and have concrete poured around. But maybe their design team can look at what we installed and see if there's some type of above-ground foundation. They're substantial lights, and they, like I say, so that middle area is the concern in that parking area.
Thank you. That's helpful. Another question, and I'm not sure it's really for you, but we were talking about maintenance on this lot. I am assuming that Public Works would be plowing? Do we have any?
Yes.
So that part of it would be treated as a regular lot, even if they were watering and doing some of the landscaping?
If it's under the same care that we had for the AT&T lot in the front, we plow that lot, so I would assume that we would do
Okay.
the same
Yeah.
for the back lot.
Thank you. That's a good analogy for me. I guess that's it for me. Any other commissioner questions, comments?
So other than, sorry, am I jumping on somebody? Can you walk me through the conversations with AT&T about what's underground? Did they give you an idea of what's there, if there are any spots at all that have nothing? Do they have that mapped, or is it beyond what they can even tell us?
Unfortunately, it's not. Our initial amendment to them did not include that language about no excavation. They revised it and sent it back. That was basically the only change they made, and said, oh, your amendment's fine, but you can't excavate there. I think it was no surface disturbance, I think was the language that they added, which
Right.
was, that was news to me, it was news to John.
Yeah, but what was
But have we
represented
have we
at the
pushed-
hearing is that we were going to do stormwater,
That's
we
what
were
we-
going to
Yeah.
do plantings, we were,
So
you know.
we did go back to them a few
I was going to
times.
say, have you pushed it and tried
Yes.
to really understand it? Because this kind of came long after they knew that all of this was going down.
Understood.
So-
We did push it several times. We've sent them iterations of plans to say, can we dig here? Can we dig there? And the response is, as of yet, we can't dig. You can't disturb the surface. And we don't know what's there, and they are not open to share that with us. They've not offered anything to that end to us.
And tree roots? So these trees would bottom onto your cement bottom, and that would be it? They wouldn't be able to penetrate?
Right. They would be in.
Because heat is a real concern here, as everyone knows, here in the summer, and no shade trees in a parking lot makes for a pretty miserable parking lot.
Sure. So remember, the trees would be inside of planters. So they wouldn't break the planter surface. And the planters themselves would sit on top of the lots.
For me, this is a very disappointing development. I know that you're trying, but that front lot that is now going to be the building is safe and bright and, easily walkable and all of the things. So I know that we were all attempting to, give the same product, just at a different location, and coming up with, some planters and some solar and,
It's disappointing to us, too. I mean,
Yeah.
just to be completely transparent. Yep.
I don't know. Mr. Norsini, have you ever had a conversation with AT&T about what's under that ground?
No, Commissioner Mulroney, I had asked the applicant, I very much wanted to meet with a facilities person so that we could talk and say, are there specific areas that we can stay away, that we have to stay away from, or the applicant has to stay away from, to give us to give me some understanding other than a blanket, they can't excavate. That, from what Mr. Falcone told me, that was not going to occur.
But you personally have not had any discussions with AT&T?
No, I was going through the
Going through
applicant
the
and
applicant.
attorney to attorney.
Yep.
Can we ask AT&T if, because it might be that there are spaces that can be excavated, but they just don't want to tell you, or they don't trust someone else to do it. That if they would do it, you would pay them, but they would do it, so that they are, whatever their security issues are, they can take care of it.
I'm happy, I'm very happy again to continue to press and go back through this process. Like we had said, we are going to continue to work with Mr. Norsini specifically on this parking lot. We understand that it's important. So that's something, I don't mind making that ask as many times as I'm asked to make it. It's, you know, our initial plan was to beautify this parking lot. We had made that commitment financially to this project when we took it on. So it was our understanding that was going to be what was out here. So it's no problem for us to continue to follow that up and to push. I'm happy to do that.
I mean, just to ask them, maybe they'll do it.
Sure. I'm happy to have that conversation.
And Dave, they don't
Thank
have
you, Mr. Falcone.
any map or anything.
They have not given me a
And
map
Dave-
of any kind. I sent them a map.
Is
saying,
there,
"How's
is
this
there
look?"
access underneath it?
I said, like, can we go here? Can we go here?
And
That
is-
was like kind of the last hope, like, okay, and it'll be kind of limited. You know, we're not gonna, how deep can we go? So I'll
Well,
continue to push
It just
it.
sounds to me like it's a lazy corporate answer,
Yeah.
That's why I'm pressing it. I just think
I don't mind the press.
we have to bust open this conversation with AT&T. I really do think that, I mean, it may be that a commissioner needs to be in the room or something like that, but
I don't mind the press at all.
I'm really concerned about safety, i.e. lighting. I'm really concerned about shade. And those two are pretty big things that need places to go down in. I'm not sure. I agree with Commissioner Mulroney that you could get some small plants to live in these planters, but you're not going to get a big tree.
I agree with that.
You know, a shade-producing tree. So,
I agree.
yeah, I think we need to push on AT&T even harder. And if you
And for
want
the-
town with you, we're happy to join in.
And for the, as you're kind of flexing out some ideas and continuing to think about this creatively, the shade being a big part of it, you might think about some sunshades, like you do in a park, you know, those kind of
Yeah.
manufactured, those would stand in a planter.
Another thing that would have to go down on the ground.
But,
They would take a lot of
yeah,
wind shear.
no, it just feels like we're now, you know, giving up something from the public good for this development that we had not intended to in our negotiations and in the conditional use hearing, so.
We do continue to work, though, and it might seem amazing, but this plan is better than where it started. So it's moving in the right direction. So we'll continue to do that. And that's kind of what we had talked about with Mr. Norsini's. We'll just keep working to get it as good as we can get it, right? We all want the same thing there. So that's the goal. But it is better than it was. Hard to believe.
And somewhere I heard that you couldn't disturb it at all, but you will be able to resurface this lot.
We are, that is.
Like to mill it and resurface it to some degree.
That's, to some degree, yes, correct.
Okay.
It will look like a new lot.
Right.
Yeah.
You might
The
not go as
paving.
deep as one would
Correct.
normally. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yes. It won't just be, you know, the same lot with new stripes.
Okay. Any further commissioner comments or questions? Any public participation on this?
Question.
You have to come up to the mic, sorry. A question for them? We don't,
Is it on? Yes, it is. This is just the parking lot, but you're going to be getting to the rest of the parcel down the agenda? Because I don't have anything to ask about that.
this is just the caucus about the whole development, so now's your time to ask about anything.
But there's still issues on the agenda to go through?
That's just the subdivision of the front lot from the rest of the AT&T property.
I would like to wait till all that's presented to then speak.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's fine. There's no vote on this part of it anyway, so.
Can I just get up for a moment? I've lived here all my life, so I was here before AT&T was built. And I'm glad you asked about what's underneath that parking lot, because I was told from people that worked in there, that were good friends of mine that worked there all their life, that there's something underneath there that when they were doing the bombs, that if it hit the tower there, the whole Wayne would have blown up. So I don't know how true it is, because it was from employees that worked at the building, but that might be why they're not letting you go underneath.
I am much more in favor of not excavating right now.
Any further public participation? Any staff questions or comments? Justin, this is such a particular thing. No? Okay. Thank you very much.
We'll talk about the subdivision?
We will go on. That's the next agenda item. Yeah. Don't sit down.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Item B, Resolution 2024-120, a minor subdivision plan, final approval for the 60 West Avenue AT&T subdivision of one lot to create parcels A and B, bordered by Lancaster Avenue, Bellevue Avenue, and West Avenue. Could I have a motion, please? Motion. Commissioner Riley, and a second. Second. Commissioner Larkin, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So, as I had mentioned previously, this part of the application of the process for us, we are looking for action from the board, and this is to facilitate just a simple subdivision of the existing AT&T parcel, which would then allow AT&T to sell us a piece of real estate. What you see on your screens in front of you is the line that we are proposing for this subdivision. Parcel A is the primary parcel where the AT&T building is located today. I'm just moving the screen to show where that West Avenue parking lot is. That's kind of to the top of the plan and behind the building. That's this area here. That stays with the primary parcel and is kind of retained by AT&T as to ownership. Parcel B is the front portion. That's the portion that is the subject and was the subject of the conditional use application and is now the subject of the land development application. The entirety of the parcel is being redeveloped as per the conditional use, and the subdivision line is your hashed line that cuts through the parcel. No development is being proposed as part of this plan. It's simply a subdivision of the property. And until closing, AT&T will retain both parcels, and then we will close with them in short order pursuant to our agreement of sale.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Commissioner Coates.
Thank you. I just have a quick question, John, when you're ready. Sorry. Because the lot was a major component of our conditions for the conditional use hearing, right? With that being kind of undecided, and then looking at this subdivided resolution here, if we moved this and it was subdivided, and then our whole agreement fell apart, that lot then stays subdivided, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, because we have so many conditions as it relates to our whole agreement here that aren't going to be met, I don't think I could personally approve this until we get that sorted out. So, I mean, like, I think this is just all this is all part of I guess what I would consider a waterfall, right? We need some of these conditions that we had established to be able to be met, or at least reasonably seen to be met, before we could approve the project to move forward, just in my opinion.
Sure. So I would just offer that no matter what happens on this subdivision, our land development doesn't move forward. No part of this property gets developed until your land development approval happens. So AT&T retains ownership.
But AT&T then has a subdivided lot.
It does, but remember, this was a special use district portion of your ordinance, and I think that's the language of that has changed recently. I may not be sure. Did you all amend that portion of the special use?
Yeah.
I believe so, to change the developability of that lot. I understand your concerns 100%. And I would just offer, and again, I would ask you, you can ask Mr. Norsini, who's gone, but the issues that are left, we think we're making good progress on, and we think we'll get there. And this is an important part of this process and our deal with AT&T.
I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but does this comply with our saldo?
It does. The two lots from, he asked if, I'm sorry, Commissioner asked if the subdivision creates two compliant lots underneath their saldo, their subdivision and land development ordinance, and it does. These lots are compliant lots.
We ultimately may not grant land development approval if that doesn't comply with the zoning ordinance and the land development and the saldo. but I am not aware that we have the authority. And I'm looking to John, frankly, not the applicant's developer, to tell us, and our engineers to tell us whether this is compliant with our SALDO. But if it is, I don't know that we have the authority to say no.
I guess, kind of off of what Commissioner Coates was saying, though. So, you know, we move forward into land development and it all falls apart. I would hate to say that that's going to happen, but, you know, stranger things have happened. AT&T then has this subdivided lot, and I guess it doesn't make much difference, except for, I guess my big question is why isn't AT&T coming in to ask for the subdivision instead of?
They're actually the applicant. We are putting it forward, but they had to sign the application because they're the property owners. We are equitable owners under the property, so we have kind of standing to submit the application because of our agreement of sale, because of our equitable owner property position.
What's the amount of the sale? What's the cost of that parcel? What are you paying AT&T for B?
I don't know if we're prepared to share that information.
Well, if it's subdivided.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is no amount now because there's no lot to buy.
I mean, they have, you
That's
have an
amount.
agreement.
Yeah,
You're
there's a
in-
contract amount, for
Right, you
sure.
just haven't gone to closure.
Correct.
You haven't closed on the
We have not
property, but you have a
settled.
price. You know what you're going to pay them.
Yes,
You're
under the
not going to
agreement.
share that.
It's not, I'm in no position to share it. I don't have the authority to do that.
Do you know, John Rice?
I do not know what the price is. I mean, typically, that's not part of any of these types of
No.
applications, but it gets asked at meetings, and Mr. Falcone apparently is restricted from giving an answer, but I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. 8 million? So I've been authorized to tell you what the purchase price is, and it is $8 million. Yes, just for parcel B, that's correct. Parcel A is not part of our contract.
Other commissioner comments or questions?
I guess I'm still kind of stuck on this, like the what ifs. So, explain to me the need to do the subdivision now when we still have these open issues and we're not sure that you're going to be compliant with our agreement under conditional use.
Sure. So we have an outside date that we've extended to the maximum at this point under our agreement of sale.
Okay.
And we have to close by that point, or we lose our agreement.
Okay. Can you share what that date is?
It's December 15th.
Okay. Thanks.
And so, just for timing purposes, that allows for an approval and then an appeal period, and allows us to still meet our closing date.
Okay. Public participation.
I think that's when I want to speak, too. Is this on? Yes. John Aiken, South Bellevue Avenue, Bellevue. Used to be, I think it's French for beautiful view. That was once a cow field. There we go. I managed to procure a map of Radnor Township sewer system. I have some questions on various things. This is Radnor Township's sewer system, all of which is underground. I don't know if that tied in with not being, by the way, thank you for being here, and thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Up here, in the top of the map here, let's see, Bellevue Avenue is right here. North Wayne Avenue is right here, and this is Lancaster Avenue. These are the sewer mains in our streets here. The sewer mains on West Avenue and on Bellevue and going up Francis back to Overhill Road are 8 to 6 inches in diameter. There's a combination in there. This, what I'll refer to as the Bellevue District right here, this feeds into Lancaster Avenue, and those main pipes are 12 inches. It goes all the way over to North Wayne Avenue. Now, in this little district, there are approximately 61 connections. A half a block away is another district up here, which also exits onto Lancaster Avenue. They're also a combination of 6 and 8 inches. And then this sewage, this is it's the sanitary sewer system in Radnor. This is a docket of information that I got in the rack out here in the lobby back a ways. And this explains about inflow, infiltration. It explains what is a sanitary sewer, which is our organic waste and such, and the storm sewer. And the distinction between the two. One of my concerns is water and the sewage system, which is antiquated. I also grew up in Radnor Township, attended the schools, and learned the very trades that I had for a career of 40 years. I'm semi-retired. And I recall back in the 50s, there were still wooden water pipes in some parts of Radnor. The storm sewer, which takes the rainwater and runoff, and it'll get water from lawns and maybe downspouts and such, and there's a lot of information here on improperly connected storm sewer lines that get into the sanitary sewer. Now, water is probably one of our most precious resources. And why is water a problem? Clear water belongs in storm sewers or on the surface of the ground, or begins in there, and not in the sanitary sewer. There's a distinction between the two. When the clear water gets into the sanitary sewers, it must be moved and treated like sanitary water. Too much clear water often causes sewer backups and overflows when it rains. It also leads to higher processing fees that get passed on to property owners. Now, this is a visual aid.
You have a minute left.
I won't dump it out on the table, don't worry.
Did you
But
hear? You only have a minute, so.
I'm sorry, say again?
You only have a minute left.
I'll do the best I can. Can anyone cede their time to me? Okay. This bag of trash, some degradable, some not, glass and such, this was stuck in the sewer drain on West Avenue up by right in front of AT&T, and someone had thrown it out of a car, and it was wedged in the grating of the entrance to the stormwater sewer there, and it was wedged there. I was walking by there, and I saw a little piece of plastic sticking out, and I thought, what is this? I went to grab it, and I had to pop it out, and this is what someone threw into the sanitary sewer. These are just pieces I picked up today as I was walking through the parking lot from the Wawa. This is one of the cups of food that someone had, and it was tossed. Someone ate it and tossed it onto the ground. The styrofoam was just blowing around. This is not biodegradable. All of this gets into our stormwater sewer. And this document is published by the EPA, and it's also in association with Radnor Township. Now, this has a lot of information on stormwater sewage and what they call sanitary sewage, which I don't know where they got that term because it certainly isn't sanitary.
Mr. Aiken, I'm going to need you to either wind up or find somebody who'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay, I've got 5 more minutes.
There you
I'll
go.
try. All right. part of the problem is this antiquated system. If we keep building on the existing infrastructure, and from coast to coast, north to south, there are communities that have aging infrastructure that needs to be repaired. And if we keep building on an aging infrastructure, at some point, it's going to bite us back. That's just one point I wanted to make. This is another document that's put out by Radnor Township, and this is on Radnor Township Flood Safety Awareness. And in here, they basically talk about what to do in terms of floods. Now, these pictures in here, I assume, are from Radnor. And I don't know exactly where this is, but I have seen flooding up on the west side of the Wawa, in that little triangle there on Banbury. Is that Banbury? Banbury. And someone was rowing a boat around there. At the same time, this was maybe 8, 10 years ago, something like that. I don't remember the time. Down by the firehouse, there was a considerable amount of water, too, going a bit way up the signs. If these storm drains are not draining properly, if they are filled with trash, debris, and this document from the EPA talks about the debris that gets washed down into the clear water systems, and stormwater can pick up debris, chemicals, dirt, and other pollutants that flow into a storm sewer system, that's infiltration, by the way, or directly into a lake, stream, river, wetland, or coastal water. Anything that enters a storm sewer system is just discharged untreated into the water bodies we use for swimming, fishing, and providing water. This debris, and this is just, you all might be familiar with this because I got it from the lobby here, back a ways. The debris, plastic bags, six-pack rings, bottles, and cigarette butts, which are non-biodegradable. I see hundreds and thousands of them in the streets when I walk around Wayne. Wash into the water bodies and can choke, suffocate, or disable aquatic life like ducks, fish, turtles, birds, and so on. Part of my concern is the ecological impact as well as the environmental factors. If we have flooding and we don't have sewers that are upgraded, when was the last time the sewer system was upgraded and or repaired? Does anybody know? So nobody
Mr.
knows.
Norsini? Might.
So,
it's kind of an unknown factor.
No.
Well, Mr. Norsini might. Hold on, I'll put you on pause for a sec.
so let me just address two things really quickly, if I can. So there's storm sewer and there's sanitary sewer. The gentleman's talking about the storm sewer. That's what takes runoff. It's designed to take runoff. There is no doubt there are flooding issues throughout this township and many others, right? So those have to be addressed. I will tell you, in general, development such as this reduces stormwater runoff. Right now, the existing AT&T lot is uncontrolled. It is just an asphalt area that drains to an inlet that runs out to the street. This project, because of our ordinance, will have to manage its stormwater. So there will actually be less stormwater leaving that site now, or if this project goes through, than there is today. So I hope that quells your concern on the stormwater runoff.
Well, that's only one partial that you're talking about. You're not talking about the township as a whole. We have plenty of water issues in other parts.
I said that there is considerable flooding in the area, but, sir, honestly, this is not the forum for a township-wide discussion. This is specific to, I believe we're talking about 60 West. And the development, because of our stormwater management ordinance, the runoff from that lot, as it sits today, will be less if this project is developed.
Regardless of it may be less, I am talking about that because you're going to have 45 new connections to the mains. Now, one of my questions is, are those mains going to be attached, are the laterals from there, are they going to be attached on Bellevue Avenue or Lancaster Avenue?
So I think we had this discussion once before. My requirement to the developer was a very extensive metering and televising process for thousands and thousands of feet of the sanitary sewer. The results of that was reviewed by two of our consultants, and myself. Those meters were placed in those pipes to see what happened when it rained, when it didn't rain. All the connections, the number of connections were taken into account for looking at the flow. So based on the extensive requirements we made the developer do and the review of that data, that states that our pipes will be able to convey the sewage from this, whether it goes out to Bellevue, which it does, or Lancaster. We don't tell a developer where they can hook up to, but we do review it. So as I told your neighbor, based on what the extensive requirements we made them do, an analysis by 3 people, our pipes should be fine. And I had to sign a DEP document to that effect. I would not have done that as a representative of the township had I not thought that be the case.
So you're giving me a long way of saying you don't know whether they'll be attached to
Okay,
Bell.
Mr. Aiken, I'm sorry. He answered your question very clearly. The situation will only be improved by this development because they're putting in a large stormwater system.
So are they going to be attached to Bellevue or to Lancaster Avenue?
I believe Mr. Norsini said Bellevue.
You believe what?
Mr. Norsini just said Bellevue.
Yes.
Okay, because we had not gotten information as to where the attachments were going to be made and also what kind of digging and construction that was going to involve to attach laterals to that. We already have.
We're going to need to discuss this in another forum.
You will?
Well, you will. If you would like more information about this, we'll need to do it in a different forum.
Sir, I can meet with you one-on-one or with a couple of neighbors here at the township, and we can review all your questions about the plans and the sewer connections and all those good things.
Thank you, Mr. Norsini.
Can I contact you in your office or something like that?
Please do.
I'd like to get your office number when I leave, before I leave.
Thank you, Mr. Aiken. We want you to have all the information you need. It's just taking up too much time. Is there further public participation?
I would like to leave you with one thought. This is what I grew up with. We used to have signs around the township, "Don't be a litter bug."
Yeah.
They were removed years ago. They were all over the township. In case you all hadn't seen this, and probably none of you are old enough to have seen, the "Do not litter bug," don't be a litter bug in our township, because this is what's happening to our sewers. And it goes on daily. I had a lot of more information to present, and it's unfortunate that we residents don't get anything like the time that the applicant gets. And I think that is shortcutting us. Oh, sorry, don't want to leave the debris here for you.
Mr. Aiken,
Dispose of it properly.
Mr. Aiken, Mr. Aiken, public comment in a public meeting is just public comment on the matter that the board's going to vote on. It's not time for your own presentation. So everybody that comes up tonight gets 5 minutes. You got 10 or probably 15 minutes, but public comment is on what the board's voting on. That's it. If you want to do something like that, I think Mr. Nucini offered, it'll be much more productive if you do it outside of a public meeting with the township staff. So just, and you've sat through all the conditional use. It's a little bit different than this, but public comment is 5 minutes on the topic at hand, not on some other issue or some other study. Just
That information was not available to me. I didn't know there would be down the road, and it's been difficult to get information and to understand the voluminous amount of information that has been.
it's very easy to get information. You just need to ask for it, come in this building. Okay.
Perhaps you could join Mr. Aiken when he...
Yeah.
Yeah? No.
Who did you ask?
And is the video of the sewer available?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this was a right-to-know request. I have to look into it, and I'll talk to the solicitor as to what is available and what is not. But I think that the thing to understand is people that do this for a living have reviewed all this data. And I'm hoping you put some trust in this group that did that. But I will gladly go over everything and all your questions. So looking at, right? So meet with me and we'll take care of this.
Okay.
That's why you have.
Mr. Norsini will meet with you, okay? Thank you very much, Mr. Norsini. Any further public participation on this? Okay. Seeing none, we're talking about a motion and a second on Resolution 2024-120, minor subdivision plan, final approval for 60 West Avenue, the AT&T lot. Could I have a vote to approve? All in favor? Aye. Unanimous? No. Oh, you voted nay? Nay.
This is not land development approval.
No, this is just the lot line. Okay. And Commissioner Abel's off the dais.
Thank you. I think we're done for the evening.
Okay, no, we have another.
Done with the meeting.
All right, we have ordinance. Ordinance 20.
Rod, we're not on recess.
Ordinance 2024-09, up for adoption is the general obligation bonds not to exceed 10 million bank qualified for capital improvements, including real estate, facilities, and infrastructure improvement projects. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Larkin, since he spoke, and a second. Commissioner Agnew. All right, who wants to start us off? Mr. Tate.
Thank you, Madam President. As was introduced 2 weeks ago, before you tonight is the adoption of the ordinance for the sale of the bonds, the general obligation bonds, to provide the financing for the improvements as noted for real estate, facilities, and the infrastructure improvement projects. If there's any specific questions, we do have Mr. Dan Kozloff from PFM here with us tonight, as well as Mr. Ed Murray, the underwriter with Stiefel Investments, for any technical questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Agnew?
Yes, please. Is someone going to come up, or both, or whatever? Willingly admit this is really more an explanation I'm asking for, not, because of the process. For example, the ordinance, it says, looking for a principal amount not to exceed $12,000. And then there's a chart at the end where we're getting really 9.6 million, 9.7 million. And I'm like, yo, that's only 80% of 12 million. So that took my breath away. And then there's another chart where if we borrow 12 million, we're paying back over 20 million. Again, took my breath away. It may be all normal, but so I'm wondering if you could explain those things that give me alarm. I know it was done well. I just don't understand why it says 12, but we're only going to ask for 10. Why it looks like we're asking for 12, or giving you permission for 12, or authorization for 12, sorry, but we're only getting 9.6. If you could explain that.
So
No, in addition, on the very last chart, it says the projects will be done by 2026, but then we seem to have money going over into 27 and 28 and 29.
So the answer is fairly simple. You're right.
Okay.
So each year, each time that you issue bonds, we haven't sold the bonds, so we don't know exactly what the maturity amount is going to be in each year. We sell each year in an auction to investors. So each year has an interest rate and each year has a principal amount. And until we sell the bonds, we don't know exactly which bonds are going to fall where. We have a good idea, but we don't know where. So we ask you for an additional amount, approximately 20%. We'll never need that. We might need additional bonds in 1 year when we sell them, but not all the years.
Isn't most of it going to be sold by 2026? Because that's
The bond-
seems to be where we're paying out most of the money.
The bonds will be sold tomorrow.
Well, okay, but didn't you say maturity years are,
26 to 44.
okay.
26 to 44. They go out to 2044.
So okay.
So we're selling the bonds.
Tomorrow.
We don't know, tomorrow. We don't know exactly where the maturity is going to lie. The Department of Community Economic Development says that we have to write a maximum schedule with a maximum interest rate, and we could never exceed that. And we ask for about 20% more until we actually sell the bonds, where we see where they fall. The net result is we're not going to issue any more than 10 million because we're selling the bonds as bank qualified, which means we can't go over $10 million because that's the way we've sold them. You've done this several times. I did the last 4 bond issues, the series of 2022.
I wasn't here, so if that
In
doesn't matter.
2022, we asked for 12.985. We did 10 million. In 2021, we asked for 15.5. We did 12. In the series of 2021, we asked for 9,785,000. We wound up with 8,360,000. We always ask for the maximum amount, but we know we're not going to go over 10 million. We had pricing discussions today with PFM and with investors, and right now we're somewhere about 9.4 million.
And regardless, we will be paying 6% interest?
No, you won't be paying.
No?
No, because we haven't sold the bonds. That's a maximum rate.
Right. So we won't know till tomorrow what the rate is?
We're projecting the rate. These are estimated. We haven't sold the bonds. In 2026, we think the rate will be somewhere around 2.86. In 2027, we think the rate will be somewhere around 2.88.
That we're paying back?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, that's not so, that's
It'll
way better
go
than
up.
6%.
It'll go all the way up to, and we're estimating right now in 2044, we think the rate will be 4.3%
And we can pay these off early, is that right?
after 5 years.
After 5 years, so if we go, we're ahead of the game, let's get rid of this.
Yeah, the township has no debt that's older than 5 years.
Okay.
Like, if you can refund them, we're very efficient at coming back and saying you can refund these for savings. If you have cash at the end of 5 years, if you want to get rid of the whole thing, you can get rid of it and spend your own cash.
Would we then just end up issuing another bond then, because we're, taking that money and buying back? It just depends. All right, I see, I get.
Public policy is not my domain.
Me either. All right, so, and then the 2027, 28, and 29, that's another 2 million. That's just, what? 'Cause
I don't know
If I
exactly.
could clarify?
Yes, please.
Excuse me.
I don't know.
Yeah, Commissioner, the schedule you're referring to
Yes.
there shows a projection on the spend down of the proceeds. So the bonds are sold tomorrow. The township will have full funding within 30 days. But based on our project timeline, it could take us 2-3 years, or maybe a little bit more. It's just an estimate on when the actual money will be spent on the variety of projects that we're contemplating.
So even though somewhere in here it says the project will be done by 2026, that can be,
Again, that's an estimate in the ordinance that we're not bound to that estimate. It's, as we know from other bond issues, that it could take 3 to 5 years. As I mentioned before when we were discussing, once we get beyond 5 years, then we have to make sure we have a plan in place to complete the spend down of any additional funds that we have in our possession.
I totally believe you. That's not, it's, to me, like, well, how are we legally, I know John's gone, putting in an ordinance that it's 2026, but we don't have to really pay attention to it. I'm not saying that's wrong, I just don't get it, that's all. That's all. I'm happy to trust you.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further commissioner comments or questions? Anybody else? No? Okay, any public participation on this issue? Seeing none, I'm going to call a vote on ordinance 2024-09, adoption of the general obligation bonds not to exceed $10 million. All in favor? Aye? Unanimous. Thank you very much. It's a difficult concept to get your mind around, and I understand Commissioner Agnew. All right. So we're through now the business agenda and on to the budget. Item 4. Part A, we'll have presentations on service delivery. I'm sure Mr. White has an agenda and an order, so I'm going to leave that to him.
Yes, thank you very much for giving us a couple minutes here at the end of the meeting. As we talked about during the budget presentation 2 weeks ago, what we wanted to do tonight is give our departments an opportunity to provide the board and the public with 5 minutes each, kind of give a 5-minute commercial on their departments, the services that they provide the community, and how things are going along within those departments. So ultimately, we decided to do the order based on the way that you would find this in the budget document itself. So the department order is set by department number, which means that Molly is up first as a member of the administration department. And then each subsequent department will come up once there's a conclusion from the previous one. So Molly, take it away, please. And again, board, thank you very much for carving out a little bit of time tonight to allow us to do this.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to share what we have going on in Township Communications. I'm going to make it short and sweet. We are so excited to have just marked the 5th anniversary of Radnor's Public Information Office launch. I'd like to quickly shout out the department heads who are all here tonight. Since day one, these team members could not have been more supportive. Their doors are always open, they answer all of my calls, and they share their expertise so we can get accurate and timely information to our stakeholders. I may be a messenger, but my colleagues are the experts. And on our 5th anniversary of working together, I wanted to thank all of them, Township Manager Bill White and Peggy Hagan. Okay, let's get down to business. In a nutshell, the Office of Public Information focuses on delivering township information that is of public interest to our community. My partner, Ian Myers, leads technical operations, while I lead public-facing communications. We focus on creating website content, managing township apps like Radnor Connect and Code Red, developing and maintaining a social media presence, and promoting brand awareness to spotlight Radnor Township as one of the best places to live, work, and play on the main line. If you follow us, it's easy to see why we enjoy our work. It's a constant whirlwind of activity. We work with all 5 township departments as well as community partners, and we get the word out through various communication methods. We have created a press office that handles all township media relations, and in 5 years, we've developed relationships with over 30 media contacts we engage with regularly. We create content calendars a year in advance that feed our social media platforms, and we also develop awareness campaigns on an as-needed basis. For example, we are currently preparing a recycling campaign to bring awareness to recycling compliance for our residents. Please keep an eye out for How to Recycle in Radnor, launching in November, where we will gladly remind our community that we are a single streaming recycling township, and will take you behind the scenes on our recent visit to Republic Services recycling plant, where we saw actual Radnor Township recycling being processed. Okay, speaking of social media campaigns, we've learned through analytics that the community interacts with video at higher rates than other communication vehicles. So we'll continue to post video PSAs to keep our stakeholders engaged year-round. This includes hashtag Around Town Thursday and new educational campaigns featuring my colleagues on camera as well. The last time I was up here was 2022, and I'm thrilled to report we have continued to see increases in followers on social media and website alert subscribers. As you can see, Instagram is outperforming all other social media platforms, though we have maintained a presence on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And the demographics have stayed consistent. The bulk of our followers are Radnor Township women between the ages of 35 and 54. Thanks, ladies. In other news, our content has reached over 13,000 LinkedIn users, which is exciting in terms of tapping into a professional demographic and users who don't necessarily live in Radnor but could one day. Also, after 5 years, we still do not engage in social media paid advertising. This is all organic growth. Next is a snapshot of how our Granicus email and text messaging system, GovDelivery, is performing since we launched in late 2021. We started with just 3,500 subscribers, and we've grown to over 20,000 as of today. In the past 12 months alone, we've grown almost 25%. The website and alert delivery system is the most effective communication method we have, and we're so pleased residents look to Radnor.com as a primary source of township information. In closing, our game plan for next year is to continue to produce video engagement, particularly on social media, continue to expand promotion of department-specific projects, events, services, and offerings, strengthen relationships with community partners to offer cross-promotional opportunities with groups like the Willows Park Preserve, Radnor Conservancy, Shade Tree Commission, Wayne Business Association, Wayne Art Center, Radnor Fire Company, and Radnor Library, all of whom continue to express great interest in partnering for promotional efforts. Thank you very much for a great 5 years, and here's to 5 more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. And thank you to Manager White and our fellow department heads for their support in everything that the Finance Department does. We are a group of 9 full-time and 5 part-time staff who cover a variety of functions, which we're going to give you some brief highlights and step through in this presentation.
Really exciting stuff. The first of the fundamental accounting processes, accounting and finance, and that, as you can see, encompasses a lot. So we have revenue collection, which is your real estate billing, 8,000 bills, roughly 15 million in collection, and the utility billing, which is sewer and stormwater, combined is at 8,600 accounts, collecting just over 11 million. We have 1 full-time employee, 13-year employee doing all of that and the customer service associated with it. The next is accounts payable. We process roughly 100 AP checks every other week, and this employee maintains over 1,000 vendor files, which those 2 things don't sound like a lot, but there's a lot of pieces and steps in the process from entering a requisition to printing an AP check. The next piece, we have general ledger, which we have 22 funds and revenue and expenses under each of those funds. So along with that comes the budgeting, revenue, and expense monitoring of those 22 funds, posting daily activity in our bank accounts, and the reconciliation of all of that. And we have 1 part-time employee who has been with us for 57 years. She does all that for us. Next, we have treasury and investments. We have 32 different bank accounts, lending and depository relationships, multiple investment firms that we work with, investing roughly $10 to $15 million of our money. Escrow management, we manage roughly 500 escrow accounts for developers and residents who are doing projects. Business Insurance Administration, which we work with an outside broker to obtain general liability and auto insurance, and then the subsequent claims that come in throughout the year. The budget, which is what brings us here tonight. We actually start working on that in June. We work very closely with the departments to go over their operating and capital needs. And we have debt service management, again, which we discussed tonight with your approval of a bond. And then finally, the annual audit and financial report. We work from February to June on the audit and eventually finish up with the filing of the annual comprehensive financial report.
Next, I'd like to talk, Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about payroll and human resources, headed up by Mary Lou Nepshield. Mary Lou's been with the township for 17 years. I can say that for about 16 of those 17 years, she has never taken a vacation on a payroll week and has juggled her holidays to make sure that payroll is processed every 2 weeks, currently now for 138 full-time employees. At times during the year with our seasonal and part-time, it's up over 200 employees, as well as processing pension checks every month for 125 retirees. Just in the past year, with the help of our accounts payable person, who is now cross-trained to back up Mary Lou, we have 2 people now who are familiar with our very, very complicated payroll process. In addition to processing the money, that also includes processing all the regulatory filings for federal, state, local taxes, as well as any kind of deferral of income that goes into a 457 plan or HSA plan. One person has been in charge of making sure all that money movement occurs every 2 weeks as needed, and all the agencies are paid on time. In addition to that, our HR function includes benefits management, working closely with the safety committee for workers' compensation management, which ensures that we get a 5% discount on our premium. And then we work together, Mary Lou and I, on the collective bargaining agreements for our 2 union groups. We are part of the pension committee overseeing the pension and OPEB funds. And lastly, Mary Lou does have oversight of our 2 part-time folks who operate our switchboard every Monday through Friday. So I'd like to say that we're a full customer service operation for our fellow department heads, all of our staff, our residents. We know customer service these days. When you make a phone call, it's really nice for someone to pick up the phone and respond. Mary Lou is available for employees and retirees and has done an outstanding job.
One thing I did forget to mention in the previous slide, we do work very closely with Ken Froelich, our township treasurer, on the revenue accounts payable. He's very entwined in all that process. So the next function is administrative services. This is primarily handled by one employee, a longtime employee, 27 years. The right to know and compliance with the Sunshine Act and records retention. Both of these are mandated by the Commonwealth, and Melissa works to ensure that compliance is met. In 2017, we had the inception of an automated system. The right to know requests went from 618 requests in 2017 to 1,958 total requests made in 2023. To date in 24, we've already had 1,681, so we are well on track to surpass last year. Grants management falls under Melissa. She works with multiple federal, state, and county agencies to look for grants. She works with departments to do so, PEMA, FEMA. In 2023, we were allocated $1.3 million in grants, and so far in 24, we have been awarded $600,000. Under that as well falls contract management, which she does work closely with the other departments on. Bids and RFPs. She manages all bids in the RFP process. She works closely with the internal departments and bidders, contractors through the entire process from bid to award. Our ERP system management. In 2017, we upgraded our ERP system, so Melissa manages the implementation of different modules and the upgrades, and then subsequent training of employees.
What's ERP?
Oh, enterprise resource planning, sorry. Yes, it's our main computer system. Lastly, we have sustainability. And Melissa works to help the township with the Renewable Energy and Conservation Plan adopted by the board in 2021, and as such, then works closely with the EAC.
Two more. I just want to talk about information technology, headed up by Bob Hale, a 15-year employee with support of an outside third-party contractor firm, and a former employee who now is part-time, Steve Giancristoforo. If it has a battery, if it has a plug, if it has a light, if it has a sensor, if it has a beeper, Bob Hale's the guy, whether it's our network, our computers, our printers, our copiers, our phones. Bob Hale handles everything. He's available at any moment. Pick up the phone, and he can help you with any problem, any new installation, anything that's not working properly. Bob's been just the most reliable guy, anything technological. Also, in addition to those IT capabilities, Bob has oversight for our building operations. So all of our HVAC, our cooling tower, our boiler, the rooftop units, all of those, which are items that will be addressed with the new bond issue for replacement in the upcoming years. Bob's been intimately involved, and especially in the past couple of years with cybersecurity and the increased needs and adaptations made to our system. Bob's been at the forefront and really doing a tremendous job for the township. Lastly is our Act 511 administration. We were fortunate enough to, the board thankfully approved the positions, hired a full-time resource in 2021, Michelle Delapizzi, came here with 26 years of experience from another township, and then later another full-time person to support Michelle, has just done a wonderful job in ensuring, as I like to say, uniformity in the administration, enforcement, and compliance of our business tax ordinance. Does tremendous work. She's a workaholic. She's available to meet with taxpayers at any time. I've seen her here late at night, and does a wonderful job in bringing in a significant portion of the township's revenue. So that's it. And I just want to mention, early on we mentioned accounts receivable and accounts payable. Ben Cooper and Jeanette Linehan in those capacities. And lastly, under the IT function was, again, with the board's approval, hiring of a GIS specialist, Dave Kelly, who's done a great job with at providing maps with relevant data points. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys do a lot. Hi, Chief. You've got the floor.
Thank you, Commissioners. I got right into my presentation. On the Radnor Police Department, our responses are conducted by some of the best women and men in law enforcement. We currently have 50 officers, and the units are broken down, and 2 very specific administrative support assistants, and you can see the units listed on how we respond to incidents. Very importantly, I will give you some numbers. In 2023, we had 19,143 incidents, approximately 3,400 total crimes, and out of those crimes, 1,133 which were Part 1 crimes. And for the community, Part 1 crimes are the more serious types of incidents, and they're broken down by an FBI code. So it does show that this is still a very safe township, but we do have some criminal activity, and that is why we're here. It did show an 8.7 increase in total calls from our service level of 2022. I'm going to just talk about bread and butter. I think this sets us apart. Our vacant house checks are a major part of what we do, and even some of the businesses are taking part of it, and the residents can see what services we provide. Very important are school visits. I will highlight Run, Hide, Fight training, which we do annually, such as the entire Radnor High School body every year is addressed by us. And we do free building security assessments, and we have 2 specially trained officers who do that. 13 square miles, 13 schools, not including some of the daycare centers, so it's a big responsibility of our schools and our top priority. Business security checks, this is kind of, if you'll excuse the term, old school. We are out checking and shaking doors. We meet people, and we find simple oversights from people working very hard and try and keep their businesses safe throughout all locations in the township. Our community service unit, this is really fresh on your agenda. It's exceeding expectations. Our counselor, Isabel Cook, is making a massive impact, exceeding expectations, and we'll be delivering some more information because some of the commissioners have asked about what they're doing. The CSU officers are reducing response time and giving more of a continuous level of care to the mental health challenges that are facing everyone and in this township. We are just very excited about the community service unit. We can never forget our four-legged friends. We are working on a 4-dog unit here in Radnor Township. 3 of them search out bombs, and 1 of them does narcotics detection. All of the dogs can help find missing people or do article searches, and many of them have been donated by various people in the township, so it's kind of like a community partnership, keeping our canine unit up and running. We are very proud of them. Our integrity control sergeant handles our PLEAC coordination. That is our Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation. It's so important. We're coming up on another inspection. And what's nice about this is not just a sticker that goes on the wall. It's a continuous process in excellence in policing, and we're very proud to be a part of that. And they coordinate our de-escalation training, our random drug testing for police officers. And if there is a citizen complaint, which there are very few, we address them. I will let the commissioners and community know most of them are worked out with understanding of the totality of the situation. Our highway patrol unit, they stick out a little bit. They help enforce our traffic laws. These are our motorcycle guys. They inspect trucks, and they very importantly handle serious accidents. And they administer any DUI checkpoints that we may have. One of the biggest things at the Highway Patrol Unit, conduct our traffic safety meetings, which our engineering, public works, and various other partners join in on and allow us to stay in touch with the community. And as you guys are aware as commissioners, traffic is always an important issue in the community. Our detective bureau handles the toughest crimes, the more important crimes that take a lot of follow-up and require a lot of diligence in that. And we also work with the district attorney's office. Another function is they handle all of our evidence management, so almost all of the incidents in Radnor Township are able to be handled by our detective unit, which are highly trained, multidisciplined detectives. Never to be forgotten is our parking authority, may be a current topic in the township, where parking is important. It helps our stores stay vibrant, allows events, and helps us manage and collect data on people and what they're doing. We do have 44 kiosks, and it does say 43, but we have one extra one, that help us collect revenue, and it is very important. They also conduct and handle all of our animal enforcement and deer culling process. And they also coordinate our Radnor crossing guards, which are a huge part of our arm of service. I did touch on the animal control service, and we participate with the PIO. We will produce information related to crime alerts and any special issues that may come up, like sort of from another township, where we would help coordinate, make sure our township residents are informed of anything that's going on. We supervise our civilian employees, do all of our department payroll. I'm not going to read it all, but it handles all the administrative functions, which are police administration. It's sort of not fun stuff. We do have a drug task force. There's several things that we do. One of them is the drug task force. We don't have any new officers, but they help participate when an issue arises or if there need to be borrowed, such as their narcotics task force, where they may go help in another community because of their special skill set not being known. But it doesn't cost any additional resources, just some of their extra time, and it keeps them sharp should we have a situation. We have a regional SWAT team who've been very involved in incident response throughout the county, and these officers are on loan, and also if they come into town, we have our experts that help us coordinate, such as the Wheels of Wayne, Music Fest, and Villanova's graduation. Extremely proud of our Radnor Citizens Police organization that helps volunteer at various community events, helps us with some of the town watch functions, and shows up for different large-scale events such as the Pope in the past. We haven't had anything too exciting like that. Our chaplains program still remains active. They respond out on death notifications. They help us with some public events, and they work now with the CSU unit. So we have sort of a dual approach to somebody who may be having a crisis or, very sadly, a loss of a family member, and we now have a dual approach with them. So we are excited to have that, and we'll hopefully be hosting a new training coming up this year. And I would like to thank the amazing women and men. I wish they could come up here and give the presentation. They certainly deserve it, and they work very, very hard, and it is an honor to participate with other department heads and Mr. White. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Evening, Commissioners. Kevin Kachansky, Director of Community Development. The mission of the department is to serve the residents and businesses of the township through the administration and enforcement of our regulated ordinances. We do this to assure the health, safety, and welfare for all those involved with the Radnor experience. We strive to provide efficient and courteous service while being dedicated to maintaining a safe and welcoming environment. Our organizational chart hasn't really changed much over the years, although some of the positions for the staff filling those have. I'll note that the fire code official position is currently vacant, and we were fortunate enough to fill a long-term vacancy in the department for a code official. So we brought an in-house code official in, but then we also further reduced our reliance on our third-party agency that provided us with some code official services. Our administrative responsibilities, that's met by Mary Ann Cassidy and Lisa Curry. They process permit and rental housing licenses applications, contractor licenses, and insurance information. Prepare the application packets for Zoning Hearing Board, Design Review Board, and the HARB. To prepare monthly reports for the county, process departmental right-to-know requests, and schedule inspections of our code officials. This graph is a snapshot of the departmental activity year over year from 2014 to 2023. I'll note that in 2023, we did see a little dip in the activity of the department. However, this next graph shows that same time period, but including 2024 for the first 9 months of each of those years. So that you'll see that we are exceeding where we were at this time last year and on pace to, kind of keep up with standard department activity. Codes and inspections, our code officials do plan reviews and issue permits. They conduct the related building inspections, hold meetings with architects, businesses, residents, and other staff members. They respond to complaints. We also respond to and support emergency situations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We serve as township liaison to several boards and committees, and we also coordinate with other department township staff. Our code officials, led by Andy Pankos, our senior code official, he's a tremendous asset to the department. Our recent new hire, Justin Foster, we're very fortunate to have him on board with us. Bill Bruno is our property maintenance inspector. He handles all the complaints and does a great job with those coming in. I mentioned our fire code official position being open, and we utilize our third-party agency as Barry Izette, and they provide one full-time code official and a part-time rental housing inspector. To date, so far in 2024, we've issued over 1,800 permits, performed over 2,900 inspections, responded to over 160 complaints, and we have probably at this point over 2,700 open permits. Here are some snapshots of what those code officials are doing. The top left was a response to a house fire. Bottom left, they're doing a pressure test for a fire suppression system. The center was a response to a business doing work without permits. Top right is a foundation inspection over at Villanova for the law library, and then residential home inspections for a development. Mentioned we also respond to complaints. Top left corner was a recent business with overflowing trash and garbage. Bottom left, if you haven't heard of Bill Bruno's name, he's the one that's out there responding to a lot of these utility issues and really keeping a good job of keeping on the utility companies to get those cleaned up. He also does a great job with the property maintenance and the high grass and weeds, as well as in looking at RVs storage on residential lots. And then the center photo is, again, a response to an emergency. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in that incident. Rental housing, again, program is managed by our third-party part-time inspector. There's not a lot of movement in our rental licenses. It is a pretty static, even year over year with that. So looking ahead to 2025, at the beginning of the year, we're looking forward to the adoption of the comprehensive plan, which will then set forth movement for the Wayne Master Plan later on in early 25, and then followed that with the kickoff of a zoning ordinance update. Two things that we're really excited about is being able to get a digital scan of all of our archive files in the basement. That does two really important things for us, for community development and for engineering. It allows real-time access in the field for all of the inspectors to have a historical record of past construction, so if they're out there, they can quickly pull that information up. But it also allows us to more efficiently process our right-to-know requests, so they can come in and get out much more quicker because it's really at our fingertips. And then we're also looking forward to going green. We're going to look at going through a paperless submission application process, through a online portal for the submission of applications and for the payment. So that's whether it's a board or for a permit application, is to be able to go through there. So ultimately, the goal is to go 100% paperless to the greatest extent possible. So in closing, I'd like to thank, on behalf of the department, for your time tonight, the township manager, and my fellow directors for making this a great place to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll see what Mr. Norsini does in his spare time when he's not talking to Mr. Aiken.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Manager, for allowing us to do this. So our departmental responsibilities: land development, grading permits, Planning Commission, a lot of permits, assist the residents at the front counter along with the builders and developers, manage capital projects, constructability reviews, and assist in capital planning for projects. I'd like to go a little bit into land development. This is one of our tasks that is highly visible to the township and the township residents. For instance, 60 West is a land development project. So what we do, we meet with developers, and our team, which consists of a couple of consultants also, we do the reviews for subdivision and land development, zoning, stormwater, traffic. We're the liaison to the Planning Commission. So we bring that project to the Planning Commission, work with the solicitor, and then ultimately, like tonight with 60 West, that project comes to this board. Wrong way. Capital projects. This is a huge part of what we do, and it is also very, very visible to our residents. So on most projects, we take it from inception, and that inception could be from residents, commissioners, staff. We do the design that may be in-house or through a consultant, constructability review, bidding documents, go to bid, board awards it, construction takes place. We do the contract administration and the inspection. Along the way, there's a lot of problem solving. We take care of that. There's a completion and a closeout. So I'd like to talk about some of our projects from this year. This is one of, I think we're really proud of. The South, I'll let you read that. We call it West Wayne Preserve. But the important thing to note about this is the two purposes this serves. It is a stormwater management project. It will impound water, stormwater runoff from the streets, and it will get released at a predetermined rate, reducing flooding downstream. But it is also a habitat creation project. Literally thousands of trees, bushes, whips, bare roots, and wetland plantings were done on this project. And this is actually a twofold project. The other half of it is Friends of the Radnor Trail stormwater management. So if you look to the left where there's the green dash, there's a large subsurface stormwater system there. There's a porous paving parking lot. There's additional inlets and infrastructure installed. Shimoni Road, this was a very traditional infrastructure project. We replaced a culvert here along with the channel that goes down towards the creek. And I just want to say, so a lot of townships talk about these different projects. Radnor Township acts. These are sizable projects in the millions of dollars that are going to make a difference. And it's not just all pipes, right? We're looking at habitat creation, using the right types of plants. So there's no doubt Radnor walks the walk. Capital projects, what's coming up? Municipal and Public Works Building roof replacement, Municipal and Public Works Building solar panel project, Willows Park Drive resurfacing, resurfacing the Public Works facility. A new one, sanitary sewer cleaning, televising, and locating project. Springhouse Road retaining wall, Conestoga Road crosswalk, and this last one we're really excited about. It's the Wayne Business Master Plan. I hope to be before this board next week at the next meeting with the proposal from our consultant to get this thing rolling. So when you look in the book, it says the township engineer is to provide technical support to all our departments. It's really a very collaborative thing we do. So we do provide technical support to other departments, but we also collaborate. We talk about issues. That's a picture of Doug Meter, who's in engineering, and Andy Pankos, who's in community development. Their cubicles are next to each other. They talk to each other every day. We work on these things. We work with the police on traffic, other departments' capital projects, project planning. So in some cases, you'll see that we take the project through all the way. So let's say the public works resurfacing. We're going to do that. But on other projects, we are just providing technical information. If it's a parks project, Tammy Cohen takes that project from inception through completion. We provide technical support when she needs it. Other projects are in between. The majority we do the whole of. There's a lot of we's tonight. We, right? All right. Well, this is the we. So this is Trish Sherwin, the engineering team that makes things happen. She's the administrative assistant. I hear laughs from over there. She enters and processes all the permits. She takes care of the front counter. She's the sole person in engineering that does this. She does the right to know requests, and truthfully, she keeps us all straight. She, chief cook and bottle washer. Dennis Capella, engineering project manager. He administers our projects, coordination, payment apps, the WPP liaison, scheduling, and the point of contract. This is Ben Wagner, formerly Ben Wagner EIT. He is now Ben Wagner PE, a newly minted professional engineer. So he joins the club, designs our smaller projects in-house. Storm sewer, many want to join, not all can. Storm sewer, ADA paths. He's doing some BMPs, and I'm bringing him into project management now, so we're very happy. Last but not least, Doug Meter, longtime employee. He does our site inspections. He also is the guy we call when there's a problem that needs to be taken care of right away. He probably interfaces with community development more than anybody else, but we all work together. We are in a collaborative environment. It is open, and we enjoy doing that very much. And I enjoy working with my fellow department heads and the other departments on all these things. And thank you for your time. And we're proud to serve Radnor and our fellow department heads and manager. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Foster.
Good evening, good evening. I'm yelling at Steve because he didn't change the slide. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this time. Mr. White, Ms. Peggy, and fellow department heads, I'll thank you now in the beginning. I get a chance to work with all of you throughout the year, and Public Works for the service that we provide. It wouldn't be possible without working with all of you, so thank you very much. Let's get with the presentation. Public Works Department. We have 4 supervisors and myself. One of the supervisors is not in the picture, so I do apologize for him for not being there, but I do want to mention something that I enjoy a lot about where Public Works has been headed since we had a chance to take over. And the part about that is just promoting from within. That has been such a boost to the morale in Public Works to be able to have that. For people stepping up from a labor role to an equipment role to a field leader role to a supervisor role. So I definitely want to mention that to let you know how important it is for all of you to support us and even for the staff that I work with to have that. But I have to mention one person in particular, Ms. Leah. Most of you, any of you, residents or commissioners or staff, when you call, you will speak to Ms. Leah. That is the voice you will hear. Since all of us have had the chance to step up to the leadership role, she has been the glue that has held us together. She is an encyclopedia of information, stuff that she's telling us from the 80s, from books that we didn't even know were around. So without her, we would not be as successful as we are, and I have to mention her even though she does not like me doing that. Let's go to the first division, or one of the divisions in Public Works, fleet maintenance. The thing that really makes these 3 individuals so special, as you can see, the 130 pieces of equipment that they take care of, even though it's said there is just just text, that is an amazing feat for just 3 individuals. Even with vacations and sick time and things that happen, they are still able to keep all the township staff and the police on the road to be able to handle the responsibilities. So that goes without saying how important it is, but it's just not in the garage that they perform these tasks. The Ithan Avenue metal fence from Ithan Valley, they actually had the chance to go down there and do some welding. That fence was falling apart in sections, and they went down there and were able to piece it back together. So it's just not things that they do inside the garage, it's also outside. Also, they're our own Radnor Township AAA to our vehicles. There's plenty of times they've had to go out on the road with a trash truck that may be broken down. Maybe there was a hose that snapped. They had to go out, fabricate the hose, come back out, install it on the road to get that vehicle back moving again. So they are an integral part of all the department's success. Let's take our sewer division. That has another 3 individuals, and I'm missing 1, so please forgive me. But it just goes without saying what they're able to do. All of the sewer mains that are in the township, they are responsible for. They perform camera inspections of the sewer and stormwater mains. They do daily checks, routine maintenance of our 4 sanitary pump stations. But what I want to draw a lot of attention to, and this is what the supervisor wanted me to make sure that it was a highlight for him, something they take a lot of pride in. A lot of times we'll receive calls from residents, and they'll mention that our main has them backed up. So the crew will go out, and they'll do an inspection. Very rarely is that the case. But they just don't leave and say, well, it's not our problem. Our stuff is flowing. You call somebody. More often than not, they will clear the resident's lateral. So that kind of service is something that goes a long way with the residents. Not only just taking that savings to the resident, but also giving them instructions on what they may need to do in the future. A lot of times there may be tree roots or obstructions or broken pipes that they may have to deal with. And they will let them know exactly what they need to do, maybe who they should call that would be a fair competitor, but that is really essential. We have residents that will call back and give thank yous for that kind of service because that is above and beyond what they have to do. Let's next take the highway division. That department or division has 10 employees. Sewer inlets, filling potholes, milling, repairing roads, signs and lines. That's also a part of what highway does. They replace and clean faded signs. They cut back the brush, obstructions. It mentions in there that they repaint 78 out of the 121 intersections. Now, the reason why that number isn't 121 to 121 is because they inspect all 121. So there are some that don't need to get painted on a yearly basis. So we inspect the ones that need to get painted, and that's what we do. The other part that I do want to mention when it comes to the highway division, they take the lead in our leaf collection, which I'm going to make a shameless plug. November 4th it starts for everybody listening, and it ends December 20th. So please look on the website as Molly and Ian have so graciously make sure everything is loaded up for your district, for your street, and when that pickup date is. But that is no small task. For the past 2 years, our leaf collection has started on time, and it has ended on time. And we would expect nothing less for that same to happen as a 3rd year. The other part that I want to draw a lot of attention to with that department or division that leads the charge in is our snow removal. Ever since I've been part of Radnor Township Public Works, the snow removal is something that we're known for. Other townships that are outside of Radnor, streets do not look like ours. So I can't take the credit for that, but I do feel like that tradition has to be kept up, and so far it has been. So I just enjoy being part of something that is unique and being able to carry that on. Parks Maintenance Division. We have 12 employees in that division. There's 30 parks, trails, properties, grass cutting, hedge trimming, weed pulling, spring and fall cleanup, all the normal stuff that you would expect a parks maintenance crew to perform. Playgrounds, ball fields, weeding. But the one thing that I want to make sure that the supervisor gave me a list of things that were incredible to highlight. But the one thing that I want to mention is 2 years straight. Last year, Ditmar Park, there was a fence that was replaced there. The fence was dilapidated, it was falling down. It was about 800 feet. They replaced the whole thing. It saved the township about $8,000 for us to do it in-house. Well, this year, they outdid themselves. The Willows fence along Darby Paoli Road, which was 1,500 feet, they replaced. and that saved $15,000. Now, it was so good that we had a resident call from Inverary, and they asked, can you tell me the company that put the fence in? So I said, all right, are you ready? I'm going to give you the name and the number. And I said, Radnor Township, Public Works, Parks Department. And she just laughed, and I said, yes, we did that in-house. So her next question was asking if anybody would work for her. But that was a feather in the cap of really showing the kind of work that those in Public Works and the Parks Department take. Let's have our last division. Our refuse department, sanitation, recycling, refuge, whatever name you might want to call them. It's 22 individuals, employees in that department. Now, the weekly trash and recycling, 8,000 households, 6,500 tons of trash, 2,300 tons of recycling, 280 rear yards, 775 bulk pickups. They're all numbers. I'm saying them to you, and it sounds like a lot, maybe it doesn't, but it is a feat to go through this township twice a week, 3 times a week, Monday, then Tuesday and Wednesday, then Thursday and Friday. And it's only 7 trucks that are doing all of this. And this is included with people taking vacations and being sick in the rain, in the cold, in the heat. It still gets done. And I just appreciate just having that dependable side of this department. And the one feat that I'm going to mention, because they have some stuff here, but I want to mention something else. There was a snafu on the part of myself that happened this year with that department. And we had to go and pick up 2 runs in one day. And when I had to go tell them that's what we're going to do, there was some naysayers, but you know, still encouraging, we can do this. And they did it. They all did it. So that's the kind of staff that this township has at their disposal. So it's really just a feather in their cap. You see the Wayne Business District, how they keep that clean and orderly. They pick up the trash. They also support the events that we have, whether it's township events or whether it's Wayne Business events or some other company. But again, if there's an opportunity for these individuals to be used and support, they will do that. And that is something that I'm very proud about when it comes to public work. So again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you again, department heads. And I'd like to give my attention to Tammy Cohen.
Thank you. Director Cohen, welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening. I really appreciate the support that you give our department. We really enjoy delivering the quality of life services that we have, and we have a lot of here in Radnor Township. And just to point out, we have 4 full-time employees currently in the department: Heather DeCanzio, Natalie Masosha, and Tracy Kroom, of course, and myself. I would say that if you were to ask those ladies what they like the most about their job, they love interacting with the residents. Over the course of the year through our services, we literally get to interact with hundreds of residents, being at events, being at programs, being out in the parks, and really enjoy it. Even when we're not getting the great feedback that we get, because we don't always get great feedback, but we really enjoy the opportunity to serve the residents and really enjoy working with all of you. Our board that we are liaison to is the Parks and Recreation Board, which is a great group of individuals. They have a full plate of projects that they've been dealing with for the last several years. And really, I want to point out just our relationship with the co-departments, especially with our engineering, public works, and police departments. As Ricky had mentioned, we rely on them a lot for varying levels of support, especially when it comes to the events for setup and support to some of the projects that we do. So I just want to recognize that and recognize the relationship that we have. That's one of the most enjoyable experiences, I think, is having that collaboration and being able to work together. It's not something that always existed here. In addition to the staff that you see here in the building, we also are comprised of about 60 seasonal staff members throughout the summer that operate at Radnor Day Camp and at the Wizarding Camp. Radnor Day Camp, of course, over at Radnor Elementary, and the Wizarding Camp over at Hilltop Preparatory School. We have great relationships with both of those school institutions. This is a great group, and this is something that really we engage year-round planning. It's a major operation to carry out the camps, the hiring. We conduct all the steps throughout the systematic process. It starts in January. It's not always easy to get folks to kind of go out there and deliver the services to our expectations. So we require a great deal of interaction, communication, training, and all that goes into it. These are folks that are interacting with our children here in Radnor Township. Just between those two camps alone, we have about 300 campers. Really great organization and great leadership. In fact, at the day camp, we have a 16-year tenured employee, and we have a 10-year tenured employee. We have a lot of 4- and 5-year tenured employees, and we think of them as us. In addition, we also have the contractual services. So we have about 16 contractual services. Basically are businesses that are out there delivering recreational programs, a variety of different things. This partner here in particular is a 20-year tenured vendor with us, led by a gentleman by the name of Jeff Morris, who lives here in Radnor. And we've had a great relationship. We have 8 years of Survivor Nature Camp that goes on over at the Willows, exploring, of course, the streams and nature spaces at Skunk Hollow, the Willows, Sawmill, and really a great camp that's been around for a long time. If you were to take all 16 of those vendors and add up all of their staff, that adds an additional 60 staff that we're also overseeing. Again, part-time folks, lots of turnover, hard to get them to, always deliver services the way we want the expectations. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. We have high expectations for how we interact with our contractual services. In fact, we have a designated set of guidelines that actually was approved by this board about 14 years ago that we follow, insurance requirements and all that for safety and delivery. So overall, throughout the year, we have about 175 programs. If you add up all the programs, all the sessions, all the opportunities, about 4,000 that are directly registering through us. If you add up some of our contractual services that actually take registration, probably adds in about another 1,000 to 2,000 registrations as well. We have a very systematic process we go through every year in how we strategically plan for what we're delivering, flush out programs that aren't doing well, add in new programs, try to tap into new trends. We have an online registration system that does a lot of this electronically that we, of course, have to set up and administer. One of our new programs this summer, over the course of the year, we've been doing many of these new programs. Little Tykes Go on Hikes. It's a great program over at the Skunk Hollow Trails and getting to do different levels of nature exploration. Goat Yoga was another great one. We used Radnor Nature Park for that one. For those of you who don't know, Radnor Nature Park is over by Radnor Elementary. We do own that space. Been trying to utilize a lot of our great locations because we have so many parks and great spaces throughout the township. We also deliver the Radnor Champions program. This is a partnership program with Radnor Committee for Special Education. For those with developmental differences, been annual different types of programs, multi-sport, basketball, all kinds of things that we have throughout the course of the year. And of course, pickleball, one of the great examples. I mean, we have every day, we have open pickleball play going on at Radnor Activity Center. And during the warmer months, obviously over at Warren Phillip Home Park, I'm sure folks have seen individuals out there. And we've also been delivering 3 tournaments over the course of the year that have been really popular. So community events really have become our backbone in the last 15 years. This year alone, we delivered 23 community events, 18 of which of them were free. So no cost to the residents. Some are very niche type programs like Sweetheart Dance, orienteering, Youth Trout Derby, peek into special interests. Those all, by the way, are huge sellouts for us. They usually sell out in a couple hours for registration. And then we also have big events like the Fall Harvest and other events where there's thousands of people that attend. They're a really great opportunity for our township departments to come out and interact with members of the community, as well as a showcase for our businesses and our community organizations. In fact, annually, we've ramped back up now to about $40,000 that we're able to generate to offset the costs of the community events through sponsorships and tons of in-kind services. So things like HERS that donates like chip bags and snack packs and things like that. Some organizations and businesses give us services, so they'll come out and they'll volunteer, things like that. Really just a great collaborative opportunity throughout the township. Just last week, we had the annual Skunk Hollow Spooktacular Scavenger Hunt along The Skunk Hollow Trail gave an opportunity for some of our businesses to come out. They set up along the trail to engage folks. It was a whole lot of fun, a little bit of a chilly day, but they had a great time. Wheels of Wayne in downtown Wayne has been a great event and a great addition to our lineup. It celebrated 10 years this year, was an enormous success and something that we enjoy delivering to the community and working closely with the Wayne Business Association. Volunteers are critical to a lot of our events. We have so many activities that are going on. We've had board members actually that have participated as pulled pork and pizza judges. They've come out and they've helped us by delivering activities and things like that for the community. Just this past weekend, actually yesterday, we had the Radnor Run, and we had about 30 volunteers that came out from Devon Prep and Valley Forge Military Academy, served as course marshals along the trail, along the course, 5-mile course, out throughout the township. It was a really amazing event, and we rely heavily on those individuals and working with them annually. So marketing and promotions is a big part of what we do. This is an area where we've spent a lot of time, especially in the last several years, as electronic promotions have grown. I was here in the day whenever we used to hand out paper flyers to all the schools, believe it or not, showing my age a little bit. But today, we can sit at our computers and get all that information disseminated really quickly. So we put a lot of time into the creative content, so I really want to give accolades to our staff for what they do. Natalie, Tracy, and Heather all have amazing content creation development, whether it's flyers, social media posts, things like that, and communication. So I really want to point out some of that they're doing. We have a weekly e-newsletter that has over 16,000 recipients. Our social media, and this is just some of the examples of the posts that we've put out, we have 3,000 people combined through our TikTok, our Facebook, and our Instagram social media handles. So switching gears here to the parks and facilities, to me this is really the fun stuff. I love the programs too, but I really enjoy the parks. Radnor Township really has something for everyone. There's just so much to offer with the skate park, Radnor Activity Center. It's just really a plethora of opportunity and spaces that we have that make things available for everyone. With 24 parks, 2 of which are owned, obviously, by the school district. We lease those. And then we have 16 open spaces, some of which we maintain, some of which we do not, which are just wooded open space areas. The scheduling and the operations at the sites is a very big deal. We get calls, tons of calls and emails daily. This is, Radnor Activity Center scheduling. So we're not physically there, stationed at Radnor Activity Center, so we have to program the doors so that they're available for opening, closing. Folks want access to the scoreboard. They want access to the bleachers, party room, things like that. We have to coordinate all of that. And there's a very systematic process that goes into not only Radnor Activity Center, but all of our sports fields, our courts when we do, sometimes lease those out, our athletic fields especially, and it's always trying to achieve a balance so that all of these activities that are going on all over the township can exist in a safe way and an organized way. And of course, covering the liability of the township is a really big deal also, working with a lot of these groups to get certificates of insurance liability for various services that they're providing. Sometimes we'll have a rental in a picnic grove. They want to put up a tent. They want to have a game truck. They want to have an ice cream truck, things like that. We navigate all that. And we're really a hub for everything that's going on throughout the township. There's the lights scheduling at Radnor Memorial that exceeds 1,000 hours throughout the course of a year. So it's really, there's a lot of layers and a lot of pieces of coordination that go into that. We also we coordinate maintenance. As Ricky had mentioned, there's so many great things these guys do in the Parks Division. I feel like a lot of times we're the same department because we work so closely on really what is a daily basis. So there's a lot of projects that they directly oversee. There's ones that we oversee. So for instance, recently we had the vegetative algae removal from the Fenimore Woods Pond. We currently had to have major service done on the Musco lights over at Radnor Memorial Park. And just a host of other things that there's some that I lead and take care of with our team, and then there's obviously the ones where we have exclusive independent leadership from the Parks Department, And then we have a lot that we collaborate on. Sometimes we get Eagle Scout projects where we have to work together, memorial benches, memorial trees, things like that, where we collaborate and work through that process. The capital projects. So the capital projects, as I'm sure you probably have seen from Mr. White's previous presentations, as well as what is within the current budget that you have, there's a lot of aging infrastructure. There's a lot of projects that are in there, and there's a lot of really big numbers. If you have questions about those numbers, let me know. I'll be happy to sit down and talk with you about those. A lot of those came from me in working with different services, professional services, contractors, trying to come up with estimations on, aging playgrounds that we have that we know are going to be, they're going to need to be replaced at some point in time. We know we have areas like the bathhouse over at the Willows Park. At some point, we probably want to address that. It's crumbling. Those are a lot of really big projects and big ticket projects. And a lot of those will sit on the horizon for funding. As we know, many of them are not funded. Those that are funded, of course, we were talking about the bond projects earlier. We have Fenimore Woods, as you all know, has been in the pipeline for 9 years now, going on 9 years. Hopefully, we're going to get a shovel in the ground in 2025, which will be spectacular. We're just now waiting to go to bid on the stable rehabilitation. We'll be looking forward to getting back to the board and talking more about that once we see how those bids come in. And then there's the comprehensive renovations happening at Radnor Activity Center. So this has been a lot of detail and layers and preparation. We have significant roofing and exterior issues at the facility with roofs that are beyond their replacement needs, as well as parts of the exterior of the building. Due to the water intrusion, there's been significant deterioration inside that needs to be repaired. And right now, the project is out for order of magnitude cost estimation, so we'll be getting those numbers soon. I'm sure everybody will be real excited to hear those. So this is just a summary of what some of those projects are. We look forward, moving forward with, of course, the development of the comprehensive plan that has been in progress, looking into 2025. And we know that within that, there's a lot of goals and action items related to parks, open space, maintaining our facilities. I know that the Parks Board's plate will continue to grow in time. Of course, as a lot of that information will be presented to the board soon. And then looking into the future to figure out a plan, get creative on how we can fund some of these facilities as we move forward. And then, of course, there are all the trail projects, as you know, are in the pipeline as well. So I want to take an opportunity just to thank you. I really appreciate it. You guys take part in a lot of the things that we do, and I know like the staff love to see you out at the events, see you at the programs and things like that. We really enjoy working with the board and appreciate the support that you give us.
Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, round of applause for everybody, I think. Mr. White?
Yeah, just to kind of wrap it all up, as you can see from our department heads, there's an incredible amount of passion and dedication that come from these individuals, and certainly they have staffs within their departments that have the same dedication to providing service in the community. And as much as we try to keep these presentations as tight and succinct as possible, when you hear everything that's going on, you realize it's actually impossible. There's the breadth of everything that our departments do on a daily basis is always very, very impressive. And I can't thank these individuals enough. Thank you again, board, for your support on an ongoing basis. As Tammy pointed out, your active nature in being part of this community is so critical, and it goes a long way in demonstrating to the staff that we're all part of one team here. So we really, really appreciate it. And that's it. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to the last issue on the under the budget here, which is Resolution 2024-124, adopting the Township Manager's recommended budget as the preliminary comprehensive budget per 7.06A, parentheses 2. Could I have a motion, please? So moved. And a second? Mr. White, you want to explain this a little bit?
I'm going to let Mr. Tate lead us
Oh,
in on
Mr.
this,
Tate, yeah,
and,
we have some new folks here that aren't used to this. so-
Yeah, and then we can, I can help answer any questions that, if needed.
Fine, sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight's approval is really a function of our municipal code, our charter that requires a specific timeline for adopting the township manager recommended budget, and then a separate timeline also as well for adopting the final board-approved township budget for 2025. So this is really a charter requirement for adoption of what was presented at the last meeting for our comprehensive budget for 2025. And the timeline meets the charter requirements.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions? No? Any public comment? No? Seeing none, I'm going to call a vote. All in favor of 2024-124, raise your hand. I asked for public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally spaced out. No, that's okay. Keeping me in line. Unanimous. All right, let's move on to reports from board liaisons. Any information to report? Nope, seeing none. New business. Old business? Fine, oh, old business?
No, I'm not sure where to put this, but I just wanted to thank those who were involved in the electronics recycling and shredding event. I did get an email from one of my residents who was very grateful for that opportunity, and thank you for continuing a good program. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, no further old business. Any final public participation? Be kind. Just reading.
This week, Sarah Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenue. It was interesting to me as a climate change person, and having been through one hell of a summer, which was worse than the summer before, it was interesting that you had concern about shade in the new parking lot, but you seem to have bypassed shade in the South Wayne parking lot, and I just want to bring that up. There is no way that cars are going to be able to be left for too long and have someone climb back in them without having problems. So I want to remind you that climate change is getting worse. It's not static. It's not getting better. So if you're going to be concerned about shade in one parking lot, then I think the township might want to look at shade in all township parking lots. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you. Any further public participation? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adjourn? And a second? All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.